And welcome here to Wake Up Call with Dan Tortora, where sports truly meets that thing called life. We appreciate you being here inside the Great Lakes Honda City studios. Great Lakes Honda City coming to you on 7140 Henry Clay Boulevard in Liverpool, New York. They're open for sales and service Monday through Saturday. They're where I got my ride, and in a winter like this, it should be a reminder of all reminders that you need to have the Honda product here on the streets of Central and Upstate New York, especially all those all-wheel drive wonderful vehicles, and of course my favorite, the Honda CR-V. Head out to Great Lakes Honda City today and check them out at greatlakeshondacity.com. With that being said, we are going to jump right into this wonderful trio of conversations we have up and down the East Coast, the Midwest, the West Coast, and all around the globe on wakeupcalldt.com. You'll find all of these wonderful channels, or you can go directly to youtube.com/wakeupcalldt, facebook.com/wakeupcalldt, or on wakeupcalldt.podbean.com. We appreciate you being here however you connect with us. And of course, here inside the Great Lakes Honda City studios, giving you the list of topics and guests for the day is Ma and Paz. And it is still time for you to get over there before Valentine's Day. Get your sweet and savories. They have so many wonderful Valentine's Day treats, freeze-dried candy. Of course, they have themed Valentine chocolate dipped wonderfulness. They have cotton candy as well as kettle corn, popcorn, and their premium corn. If you buy a tin at Ma and Pa's of any size, you will get half-price refills for the rest of your life when you bring it in. So make sure you head off to Ma and Pa's today and do that person that you love in your life right by getting over to Ma and Pa's, 201 7th North Street, Liverpool, New York. So, first guest that we have today, I'm going to be airing my ACC special. You know, I've done a bunch of specials with the Atlantic Coast Conference over a decade. And today we will have Michael Strickland back on the broadcast with us from the ACC Senior Vice President for football, who's tasked with assembling the Atlantic Coast Conference football schedule year in and year out. We will be airing my conversation with him on putting together the 2026 schedule among 17 institutions, and with the ACC going to a 9-conference, 3 non-conference model, which used to be 8-4, is now 9-3, because they have an uneven amount of teams. Not every team is shifting to this model. 12 teams are 7, and then they have 5 teams that are not. So we'll discuss all of that coming up here on Wake Up Call with Dan Tortora. Excited to share that with you. And then we'll have an all-new episode, as we do every single Wednesday at 9:45 a.m. Eastern Time, of NeapoliDANS, featuring my guy Dan Villari, doing something that is unprecedented in the world of sports, and that is taking an NFL draft prospect and giving him a weekly segment to tell his story, chronicle his journey, and give you a multi-layered approach of who he is, why he is, and everything about him in and out of his game en route to the NFL draft. This history being made on Wake Up Call, and thanks to the fact that Dan Villari said yes when I gave him this idea. So our new episode, Episode 7, The League is Listening, is the title of it, and you'll hear from Dan Villari in just a little bit. And then we'll round out the show at 10:25 a.m. Eastern Time with the NBA trade deadline reflection and reaction from longtime head coach and analyst of the game of basketball, Mr. Dave Pasiak. So with that being said, we're going to take a quick step aside, and our special with Michael Strickland, assembling the ACC football schedule, comes up next. You don't want to miss a moment of this, getting to see behind the curtain of the ACC. And now a message from Myers Creek Brewing Company, with locations at their Cazenovia Farm Brewery, Syracuse Inner Harbor Taproom, and soon-to-be Lake Placid Taproom.
Well, I think first and foremost, the Feldmeyer family and our team are extremely passionate about what we do. We care very much about what we do. The Feldmeyer family is always investing. Our taproom management team, our brew management team, our marketing management team, and all of the team members that get after it every day, they leave it on the field. They put their heart and soul into it. I know for a fact that everyone that works at Myers Creek wants to be there, and we want them to be there. You know, we want them to feel good about their job. And again, if you've never been to a Myers Creek, especially to the brewery, I mean, I want your eyes to open really big. I want you to see how big of a brand this is. I want you to see where we're going. The sky is the limit, and I feel very proud of that, and I'm very excited about that. When you think of designing a menu for a brewery, it's kind of open to a lot of different interpretations. I mean, you can do American, you can do Asian, you can do Italian, and you just have to find, you know, how that meets that pub style dining experience, that gastropub vibe. And I think it's super fun for us because obviously we know that, you know, everyone in the world's going to sell a pizza or a burger or a french fry, but what can we do to be different? And what can we do to be true to who we are? We are a brewery, you know, a brew pub. So the flavor profiles are kind of all over the place. And I think it's super cool that we have a massive smoker at the brewery in Cazenovia, and we smoke a lot of our products. A delicious smoked turkey. We have barbecue ribs on Sundays. From a pulled pork sandwich to a chicken wing, and go to the Inner Harbor and you go to the Caz location and you'll find similarities in the menu, but also things that are a little different and also kind of fit those different demographics or different communities, and also hopefully just drive you to try every tap room that we have open at some point, because you get a little something different at each one. You know, we understand how hard it is to, you know, work every day and get after it every day, and when you're done at the end of your day, you want to go out and put your feet up in a good ambiance and good environment. So we take pride in that. We make sure that everyone knows that they're very much valued to us.
And a welcome here to Wake Up Call with Dan Tortora inside the Great Lakes Honda City Studios. Great Lakes Honda City, 7140 Henry Clay Boulevard in Liverpool, New York. Sales and service open for you Monday through Saturday on location and 24/7 GreatLakesHondaCity.com. I am picture in picture with Michael Strickland here with us, the Senior Vice President of Football for the ACC. The schedule's come out, and on the night the schedule was released, just like we did last season, I gave you my breakdown of this schedule, and now we're going to get to talk with the man behind the music about this 2026 schedule. Michael, how are you?
I'm great, Dan. Good morning, and appreciate you having me on today.
Absolutely, and it's my honor and my privilege, and I want to jump right into something that's been on my mind. I know the ACC, you know, some conferences have talked about going to a 9-game conference schedule, a 3-game non-conference schedule, but because the ACC only has 17, I don't want to say only, but having an odd number of institutions at 17, not everybody can have 9. So going into your first season of a 9-game conference schedule, where part of the conference is 9 and the other part of the conference is still staying at 8 conference, 4 non-conference, how are you navigating that and just trying to have the fairness amidst the fact that the ACC is going into a new era, but obviously it's not for every team all at the same time?
Great question, Dan. We spent a lot of time on that last year in the fall with our athletic directors and our head coaches and their administrators that helped them build their schedules to determine who would play 9 games in 26, who wouldn't play 9 games in 26, and that was really a deep analysis of contractual obligations. It was important to us that we honored just as many of those as we possibly could. In particular, some high-profile A4 non-conference matchups that we played the first game of a 2-game series. Yeah. And it certainly, you know, doesn't feel right to cancel a series like that after you've played one of the games and the opponent's not had the chance, you know, particularly the team that traveled to get the return game, so to speak. It's tough to have to cancel any games, but we wanted to navigate this just as appropriately as we could with our non-conference partners. Once we identified ultimately the 5 teams that really it was appropriate for them to play 8 games in 26. Along that same process, we identified the 1 team that'll play 8 for the following 5 years. Commissioners talked about this 26 season being a transition year for us with 12 teams playing 9, but we're excited that in 27 and beyond we'll be at 16 of the 17 playing 9 and just the 1 playing 8, which is, as you pointed out, mathematically required. Once we identified, you know, who was playing 8 and who was playing 9, then it's just those puzzle pieces that drop into the board And what's important to us from a non-conference game perspective is that we try to place an odd number of those games in each week where we want to, so we get back to even. So with an odd number of teams, if at 17, if we've got one non-conference game in a particular week, that leaves 16 teams. That means you can make eight ball games up to get everybody a game that particular week. What's really important in 26 is a one open date season as opposed to 24 and 25 or two open date seasons. So in a one open date season, schedule makers really work their butts off to make sure that their teams don't get an open date in like week 2, for example, where you play week 1, take your one and only open date, and then have to play 11 straight games. So 8 games in a row was our marker. That was our goal. I think we got a couple teams that do play 9 in a row, but not many. And so open date placement is one of the most important things that we work on as we build the jigsaw puzzle every year.
And how were the leaders of the 17 football member institutions of the ACC in finding out that they just went to 2 open dates and had the opportunity of having 2 bye weeks, and now that's gone away and it's back to 1? How was the response for that?
Everything's been fine. Our biggest point of emphasis remains travel mitigation for coast-to-coast conference games. So we're sensitive to Cal and Stanford and trying to avoid no rule expressly prohibiting it, but best efforts to avoid them playing games, ACC road games on the East Coast in consecutive weeks. We were able to deliver that for both Cal and Stanford in the 26 schedule. And then conversely, for our team, for the 14 teams that are headed west, we try our best to get them an open date after that trip. But if that fails, then a home game. What we want to avoid is an East Coast team headed west and then having to travel again the following week. And we didn't get everybody an open date, to your point, because there weren't that many to distribute this year. Yeah. But we did get those who do play at home. And so we'll work with ESPN to try to manage the time, the game times as well. So if you play out west and you play late, but you have to play at home the following week, we'll use our best efforts for that home game to be at night, so you get as much of the day to calibrate for full prep as possible.
Yeah, and this shift to having more conference games than not, there's the hope that the College Football Playoff Committee looks to the ACC and values the ACC. And over the last few years, the ACC has had a narrative that I think has been unfair. Definitely hasn't been rooted in factual evidence of the fact of, the ACC games don't matter as much because these teams aren't as good and the conference isn't as strong. And I don't know who created the narrative and why it carried for the last 3 or 4 years, but do you have a sense that Miami making it to the national championship game and coming within 1 possession with 51 seconds left in the game has brought more validity to the conference and put the ACC in a place where going into a 9-game schedule in conference for most of the members, coming off of what Miami did, do you feel like the ACC is moving into a place where maybe that narrative is falling away now that we've seen what Miami has done?
Well, bowl season in total had record television ratings this year. So I'm guessing the folks who wrote or subscribed to that narrative were watching, and they saw exactly what you just talked about. Miami making their run to the national championship game, beating teams from the SEC and the Big Ten along the way. But it wasn't just Miami. Yep. ACC cleaned up in bowl season with 7 Power 4 cross-conference victories, which was the most of any conference. 7-2, I think, was our P4 record across the board. So certainly you have to validate on an annual basis your strength at the top and your depth. But we had more 8-9 win teams this year than I think any season in the history of the ACC, and that bowl season performance speaks for itself about the quality of the play in the ACC.
And then when we look at the conference championship game, we know we take the top 2 teams. This past season, Virginia was in because of their record, but they're at 7-1 in the conference. But multiple teams had a record of 6-2, and we had to go down to almost the last possible tiebreaker. Has there been anything looked at in that respect of how to kind of handle navigating through all of this if and when we run into another tiebreaker this season? And is any of that change discussed when you were putting together this 9-game schedule for a bunch of the schools?
So the schedule construction happened independent of our discussions that the commissioner has talked about publicly on a number of occasions now, that we are going to make modifications to our tiebreaker. In fact, he's mentioned to his 3 colleagues across the other A4 conferences that we're going to actually endeavor to align all 4 of our tiebreakers. They were fairly similar this past season, and obviously we have decided we want to make a change, and others agree with that. And so if we make a change, when we make a change, we're gonna work with the other 3 to see if they would be willing and be interested in making the same change. We're all playing with the exact same set of rules. A similar situation occurred actually in the SEC, where Texas A&M didn't win a tiebreaker because of their intra-conference opponents' win percentage, and so we're talking about that with our athletic directors, and we'll certainly communicate that change prior to the start of the 26th season. But change is certainly on the way. We also know that change is on the way at the CFP, and that the winner of the 4 conference championship games at the A4 level are guaranteed automatic access starting in 2026. It's not the 5 highest ranked conference champions.
Yep.
It's the 4 champions of the A4 conferences, and then the highest ranked team out of the group of 6 conferences.
Yeah, and so we know that change has been implemented here, which I think is obviously good news for those within the autonomy group. And I do want to get to the non-conference schedule that the ACC does have this season. 25 games against Power 4 opponents, which is the most of any league. 9 versus the SEC, 5 against the Big Ten, 5 against the Big 12, and 6 against Notre Dame. Your thoughts on that? Because obviously that's a big part of it, as well as making sure that the non-conference still has validity, it still has weight, and it still has the eyes of the CFP outside of the ACC.
Yeah, back to your merging that question with your earlier question about the narrative and such. The ACC has always played. This was my 13th season. All 13, I think you could compare our non-conference strength of schedule with any other league and said these people are stepping up and taking on all comers. With our move to 9 games, we doubled down on that and declared that it's a 10 Power 4 game requirement. If you play 9 ACC opponents, you must play at least 1 A4 non-conference opponent, and the teams that play 8 don't get some sort of a special dispensation. They've got to play 2 Power 4 non-conference opponents, so that all 17 ACC teams are playing 10 Power 4 games. Only the ACC and the SEC have declared and enforced that level of a scheduling mandate. So we were challenged to demonstrate our stepping up from a scheduling perspective, and we've met that challenge. So now, to your point, great opportunities, 25 of them, to step into that batter's box and get some high quality wins that are certainly resume enhancers. And we see that the selection committee will reward that type of behavior. Miami getting in last year because of the quality of their non-conference schedule. They took on 3 high caliber non-conference opponents, 2 from the autonomy 4 level, and won those ball games. So play them and win them, and you'll be just fine.
Yeah, and like I've said before, you got nothing to complain about if you win those games. So there's a lot to be said about that. Biggest like going through, and like you said, you've been with the ACC for a bunch of years, and you've had the opportunity to work through this schedule on the football side of things. Biggest positive experience that you've had in putting together this 2026 schedule that obviously came with its own kind of differences to it. So maybe your favorite part of assembling this puzzle, and then the second piece, the most challenging part of assembling this one.
I guess I spend so much time, Dan, worrying about what I don't like about the schedule. I probably don't even know what I like most about it. It's a painstaking process and attention to detail to try to get everybody everything that they've asked for. I know that's impossible, but you still do the best that you can. But I appreciate your spirit to try to be positive first. We got all of our schools who requested a certain week to be away or open for fall break when their students are away. We got all of those requests accommodated. There were a number of venue conflicts and other requests to avoid major conflicts in town that we did really well. We didn't bat 1,000, but we got close to it. So I feel pretty good about our conversion rates there. For the ACC as a whole, I feel we feel really good about our opportunity for exposure and aggregating ratings and viewership, with our partner at ESPN, in particular, our increased point of emphasis on our ACC Friday night football package with ESPN. All but one of those games will be on ESPN. One will be on ESPN2. And so we were playing on all but one Friday night throughout the course of the season. So we're really excited about increasing that number. Fewer Thursdays, more Fridays, and more high-profile Fridays. We've seen them perform extraordinarily well. I think Virginia, Florida State last year was the most watched Friday night game ever, which is saying something. We had a number of others that did extraordinarily well. So we're double-digit percentage points up on Friday night, and we want that to continue. But at the same time, we've got some key games throughout the course of the slate that can anchor us on a Saturday. As we saw last year, our ABC windows were up last year. Despite our increased investment into Friday night scheduling, our ABC Saturday windows, which are earned, not given, increased. So we feel really good about that. The angst part, we've just got a lot of travel mitigation issues that we try to accommodate, and we don't come close to batting 1,000 there. So it's frustrating when you can't get an East Coast team their open date after they travel out west, and then with the way that we schedule our having to move non-conference games throughout the schedule to manage those open dates the way that I talked about earlier. That is probably the root cause for why we've got a number of situations where teams play consecutive road games in consecutive weeks. And so we've got a few more of those than maybe some other conferences, but that's a byproduct of trying to manage the open date placement, which is really important to our players and our coaches. So it's the annual analysis of a trade-off. Is this improvement worth the new problem that you cause when you ultimately pick the final schedule?
Yeah, coming here from Michael Strickland, who took some time with us. I know you have a busy schedule inside of the ACC, putting together the schedule. Senior Vice President of Football for the ACC, and I appreciate the time as always, and always appreciate the look behind the curtain that you give and how candid you are with it, Michael. So thank you, and I look forward, as always, to be able to talk with you soon and hopefully be able to break down these things a little bit more, but I do appreciate the time.
Oh, thank you very much. We'll look forward to having you in Uptown Charlotte in July for 2026 football kickoff.
Sounds good to me.
This is Jim Dispenza, owner of Game Point Sports Complex. You hear the same story across any sport that kids play and any sport that adults play. There's never enough places to play. That was definitely true with volleyball, definitely true with basketball. Could be cheerleading, it could be field hockey, which is what we're seeing now. Every sport has a lack of places to play, and I think Syracuse in particular is a place where it's really bad. Despite the fact that we've got a lot of athletic talent around here, we just seem to have not enough places for people to play, and they're going to different places. They're going to Rochester, they're going to Buffalo, they're going all different places because we don't have a place here, and I felt like that should change. This was a long project from planning all the way through execution to opening the doors. A lot of work went into it, obviously a lot of money, a lot of resources, and the dream always was kids being in the gym, having a good time. And I've always felt like sports is the most unfiltered joy that you can observe with people, that people can experience, because it is fun, it is a sense of accomplishment, it's all of that wrapped into one thing, and so watching kids going up and down the court with big smiles on their faces has been just amazing experience. I'm looking forward to years to come of that same thing. We've taken the time to invest in multiple sports, and then what we're finding is the mere fact that we have a large, clean, well-lit space has opened a lot more doors for us beyond basketball, volleyball, pickleball. Now we're having some interest from cheerleading. We've got girls field hockey coming in, and then also there's quite a bit of room for spectators. We've got bleachers, we've got benches, we've got a concession lounge where people can get food and drinks. We're going to have multiple sports going at the same time, using every square inch of this place built for what it was conceived for, which is basically people to come in, have a good time in the sport that they prefer. We manage each situation differently. Everybody has different ability to afford different things. Some are bringing 10, 15 people, some are just 2 people. I've had a lot of situations where it's a father shooting around with his son, it's a mother playing pickleball with her daughter or with her son, and in those situations come up and we work with people, and that's allowed us to have groups from 2 people up to 30 people and have some flexible pricing behind it. We're an organization that is here to work with the community any way we can, and I guess part of it is just making sure that we have the flexibility to put together a plan that makes sense regardless of the size of your group. So in order to book time, the best option is to go to our website, gamepointsports-syr.com. You can click from there and sign up for events, sign up for your own particular training, sign up for birthday parties, all of that.
And a welcome back here to Wake Up Call with Dan Tortora, where sports meets that thing called life. Appreciate you being here inside the Great Lakes Honda City studios, and appreciate the time that the ACC gives me throughout the years to speak with Commissioner Jim Phillips as well as Michael Strickland when it comes to the world of assembling the football schedule. Definitely appreciate the ACC and all of their members. 18 total members, 17 for football. So thank you to the ACC, and an awesome breakdown. We're going to share that as its own individual spotlight special on our many outlets, including Facebook, X, and YouTube. So make sure you look out for that today after the broadcast so that you don't miss a moment of that conversation, and you can go right back to it from what Michael Strickland had to say with a look behind the curtain of the ACC and their assembling of their football schedule year in and year out. We had him on last year, and now got to have him back this year. Thanks to Amy Yacola and the whole team over there for making it possible so that we could provide this for you, the fan, to let you see how we bring all of this together, the importance of what they were looking at for the ACC schedule, and the fact that they are looking to change the parameters of that championship game and in those tiebreakers and whatnot. So a lot of great stuff from the ACC and from Michael Strickland as we get set for the 2026 football season. So thank you once again to Michael, Amy, Jim, and the team at the ACC. With that being said, we have some time here, about 15 minutes before you get episode 7 of NeapoliDANS. So I want to take a look around what's going on in the world of sports. I want to go to basketball here for a second, if I may. I know we're going to talk about the NBA in the second hour of the show, but to kind of mirror that right now, to take a look at how things are in the world of bracketology. Now, I do my own bracketology, so I will be assembling my own brackets as of right now. Kind of interesting to see here some of the prognostications that are out there that Arizona and Michigan will be number 1 overall seeds with UConn and Duke. And then some other teams getting in here, looking at some of the squads that they have here. Last 4 byes: Georgia, St. Mary's, UCLA, USC. Last 4 in: Texas, Miami. Miami just beat North Carolina. San Diego State and New Mexico. First 4 out: Ohio State, Missouri, Cal, and Virginia Tech. Next 4 out: Oklahoma State, VCU, Seton Hall, and Tulsa. So looking at the bids here, the bracketology that I'm looking at this morning, and of course we've talked about this and you'll continue to hear about it over the weeks, and I've said it for a while now, the SEC and the Big Ten is pandered to because I believe that they can go and form and may go and form their own league someday. They're alleging that the SEC will get 10 teams in of their 16 and that the Big Ten will get 10 in of their 18, which means that of the 68 spots, there's 32 conferences. So there's 32 automatic bids that come from winning your conference tournament. So 32 automatic bids out of 68 leaves 36 at large, and they're saying that half of those in the nation will be accounted for by 2 conferences of the 32 conferences. That meaning 18 would come from the SEC and the Big Ten, because they would have their conference champion from their conference tournament and then allegedly would have 9 apiece. So 9 plus 9 is 18, and 36 minus 18 is 18, which means that half of the country of their at-large bids for the NCAA Division I men's basketball tournament would come from just 2 conferences. Now the ACC is getting respect again. That's good to see. They're alleging that the ACC might pull off having 8, which means their conference tournament champion plus 7, and that the Big 12 would have their conference champion plus 6. The West Coast would get 3 teams in, with UC Santa Barbara playing better, and then you have, or not UC Santa Barbara, pardon me. So you have St. Mary's and you have Gonzaga, and then Santa Clara, pardon me, that's been playing well here. So they would put 3 in instead of 2, like they typically do with Gonzaga and St. Mary's. And then the Mountain West would have 3. The Big East would have 3. So that's what I'm looking at here right now. The Big East only having 3 is interesting. But when you look at the Big East and where they're at right now, talking about NCAA men's basketball here, Division I, with a look ahead at what could be within the NCAA tournament. I want to look at the Big East records at the moment and where everybody stands here. So the Big East, St. John's and UConn lead the way. They're both 12-1 in the Big East. St. John's is 19-5 overall. UConn is 22-2. They just got handed their second loss of the season in 24 games from St. John's, which is why St. John's is above them in the Big East standings, despite them having the same record. The head-to-head goes to St. John's. And then Villanova has shot back up. Villanova was good under Jay Wright, struggled for the last few seasons, changed their coaching staff. Now they have 10 wins in the Big East, 10-3, 19-5 overall. But then after that, we've seen Creighton struggle mightily. Creighton is a perennial NCAA tournament team, whether they were to win the Big East or get in at large. They're 13-11 right now overall. They're 7-6 in the Big East. And then you have Seton Hall, who's 16-8 overall, 6-7 in the Big East. Georgetown's gotten better, 13-11 overall, 5-8 in the Big East. They've been at the bottom for a bunch of these past years here in recent history. Georgetown has not been doing well and has had different head coaches come through. Xavier is 12-12, 4-9 in the Big East. Butler's 13-11, 4-9 in the Big East. Providence is 11-13, 4-9 in the Big East. DePaul has gotten better, 12-12, and people say, well, that's a 500 record. Well, DePaul, folks, has struggled since joining the Big East many, many, many years ago. They were a team that would win 1 game, no games in the Big East, back when Syracuse was there and Pitt was there and Notre Dame and Louisville and so on and so forth. And DePaul's won 4 games in the Big East this year. They're 4-9, 12-12 overall, which is actually a step forward for DePaul if you knew their history. And then Marquette with Shaka Smart, they have shocked the world here, 9-16, not in a good way, 9-16 overall, 4-10 in the Big East. So the Big East right now, going to get St. John's and UConn. I would imagine there's the opportunity to have Villanova make the NCAA tournament. And then, I mean, the best case scenario for the Big East is that Villanova, UConn, St. John's all make it to the Final Four of the Big East tournament, and then a Creighton or a Seton Hall or a Georgetown wins the Big East tournament. That's probably Seton Hall better because they're 16-8 overall, and the other 2 teams that I mentioned have 11 losses and only 13 wins at the time we're talking. So, I mean, best case scenario for the Big East to get more than 3 bids would probably be for a Seton Hall or a Creighton to win their Big East tournament at Madison Square Garden in New York City. But it looks like right now St. John's and UConn. And listen, if they only get 3 teams in St. John's, UConn, and Villanova, you still have 2 contenders to win the championship, in my opinion, in St. John's and UConn. So, nationally. So there's something to be said to that effect, you know, even if they only get a few teams in. But this has been a tough year for the Big East, who typically is very good. So a little bit of a tough year for them. But in that tough year, it could just speak to the parity of the conference and that teams are getting better because, again, DePaul has shown improvement. Georgetown has shown improvement. And I would say arguably Butler has shown some improvement. Seton Hall has shown improvement, and so has Villanova. So even though their overall records may not state it, that conference as a whole is doing better as far as having more parity within it, which is something that sometimes conferences get punished for, like the ACC has for the last, 4 or 5 years, at least the last 4 years. Well, in the ACC right now, Duke is 22-2 overall. Clemson's 20-4. Virginia's 21-3. NC State is 18-7. Miami is 19-5. They just beat North Carolina. Louisville's 18-6. North Carolina's 19-5. And then SMU is 17-7. Virginia Tech's 16-8. Cal is 17-7. And Stanford's not bad at 15-9. So those are the best records that we're looking at here. I don't see Syracuse. I mean, unless Syracuse, Florida State, Wake Forest, Boston College, Georgia Tech, Notre Dame, Pittsburgh. Unless any of those teams win the ACC tournament, they're not getting in the NCAA tournament, in my opinion. So, I mean, if Syracuse had that early season win over Houston on the road in Vegas, we could be having a different conversation if they were to catch fire right now. But these teams would have to win the ACC tournament. And SMU, we'll see if they respect SMU and give them an opportunity there with 17-7, 6-5 in ACC play. But, right now the ranked teams nationally in the ACC are Duke, Clemson, Virginia, Louisville, and North Carolina. The funny thing is they're not in that order as far as where they're ranked in the country. They're not in that order in the standings. Duke is ranked 4th in the country, and they're top in the ACC. That one makes sense. But then Clemson is 2nd in the ACC, 20 nationally. Virginia's 3rd, 15 nationally. And then you see that that NC State and Miami that are after Duke, Clemson, Virginia are not ranked, but they have a 9-3 and 8-3 record in the ACC respectively. And then Louisville's ranked 24th, but they're behind NC State and Miami, who are not ranked. And then North Carolina is behind all of them with a record of 7-4 in the ACC, but they're ranked 11th in the nation. So they look to North Carolina. And again, it helps to have names and it helps to come from certain conferences. North Carolina does have a win over Kansas this season. They lost to Michigan State, and they have a win on the road at Kentucky. Those are all the ranked teams that they played out of conference, and then they beat Virginia in conference, who is ranked. They did that on the road, and they just beat Duke on the road in that rivalry game, Duke at home in that rivalry game. So that's why North Carolina's here. You beat Duke, right? If you have a winning record and you're around 20 wins and you beat Duke in a season, if you're named North Carolina, you're getting in the NCAA tournament. If you're somebody else, maybe it's a bubble. But yeah, 20, they're close to having 20 wins, and they obviously have wins in and out of conference against the nation's top 25. And they won that rivalry game against Duke, who's ranked 4 in the country at the time of that play, and they're still ranked in the top 4 in the country. So, North Carolina is going to be in the conversation every year, and they're definitely going to be in the conversation when you beat a Duke. But the alleged Big Ten having 10 teams and the SEC having having 10 teams, I want to look at the records of who in the heck they would take. So Michigan, Illinois, Purdue, Nebraska, Michigan State are all ranked, and they all have at least 10 wins in the Big Ten, and they all have at least 20 wins overall. So, okay, let's say that I can agree with those 5, right? So, Wisconsin is 17-7, 9-4 in the Big Ten. UCLA is 17-7, 9-4 in the Big Ten. Iowa's 18-5, 8-4 in the Big Ten. Indiana's 17-8, 8-6 in the Big Ten. USC is 18-6, 7-6 in the Big Ten. And Ohio State is 15-8, 7-6 in the Big Ten. So they said Ohio State be one of the teams out. So that means they're alleged that USC, Indiana, Iowa, UCLA, and Wisconsin, who are all not ranked, who none of them have 20 wins, that they would get in. So again, is this them getting in because they beat somebody, or is this because they have the Big Ten conference name behind them? Because I'm looking at who USC beat this season in and out of conference. They have not beaten a ranked team. They've lost to all of the ranked teams that they've played, and all of those teams were in the Big Ten. They didn't play any ranked teams outside of the Big Ten. They lost to Purdue, at Michigan State, at Michigan. Yeah, so USC has no reason being in the conversation of being in this thing. If they weren't in the Big Ten, I don't think they're in. So that's a Big Ten bias, in my opinion. Let's look at Indiana, who has a 17-8 record. Who did they play and beat? They lost to Louisville, who was ranked 6th in the country at the time. They lost to them by 9. They lost to Nebraska, who was ranked. They lost at Michigan State, who was ranked, and they lost at Michigan. They did beat Purdue. So they have one ranked win, and it's in the Big Ten. So they have one ranked win. I remember going through and looking at teams in the past, and it's like, how many ranked wins do they have? Apparently for Indiana, you just need one. And then Iowa, let's look at Iowa here. Iowa lost to Michigan State on the road, lost to Iowa State on the road, lost to Illinois, lost to Purdue on the road, won at Indiana, but Indiana wasn't ranked. So I guess if you let in Indiana over the fact that they beat Purdue, then you would have to let in Illinois because Illinois beat Indiana. Or Iowa, pardon me. So if you let in Indiana because they have one ranked win this entire season in whatever 30, 31 games, if you let in Indiana, and again, this is not a hatred, folks, this is me calling out a bias. If you let in Indiana because they have one ranked win, then you'd have to let in Iowa over Indiana because Iowa beat Indiana. So I guess that lets those two in. UCLA lost to Arizona. Okay. They lost to unranked Cal. They lost to Gonzaga, who was ranked. They lost to Iowa on the road, who was ranked. They lost to Ohio State on the road, who's not ranked. They beat Purdue, and they lost to Indiana. So Indiana beat Purdue, and UCLA beat Purdue, but UCLA lost to Indiana, so then Indiana would get in over them. So here the argument is Indiana beat Purdue, UCLA beat Purdue, but Indiana beat UCLA head-to-head, so they would be over UCLA. And then Iowa beat Indiana, who beat Purdue. So then if you let Indiana in, then Iowa has an argument over UCLA. Now let's look at Wisconsin. Wisconsin lost to BYU, who was ranked. Lost to Nebraska on the road, who was ranked. Lost to Purdue. Beat UCLA. Beat Michigan on the road. Okay. So, lost to Indiana. So, Indiana, I guess, has an argument over if it comes down to a bunch of these teams and they have a similar record. But you got to win over Michigan for Wisconsin. So, Wisconsin looks like they may be safe if they keep winning. And Indiana, with a bunch of these teams in the conversation of the Big Ten losing to Indiana, maybe Wisconsin and Indiana, if they keep winning, are safe, and then maybe Iowa because they beat Indiana because other teams I talked about did not beat Indiana. So I can see an argument for Wisconsin, and I can see an argument if they value the Purdue win, you have to look at UCLA and Indiana, but then you have to look at Iowa, who beat Indiana, who the other teams did not. So maybe that's the whole thing. Maybe Indiana's who gets everybody in. I mean, I don't, or knocks them out. But USC, I don't see a reason for here. But Indiana and UCLA beating Purdue, I mean, that's one big-time win the whole season. But sometimes when you're in a conference that's respected by the committee, all you need is one good one. And we'll have to take a look at the SEC later on this week and kind of where they stand with everything. Their overall records are not great, though. Florida's 17-6, Kentucky's 17-7, Arkansas's 18-7, Texas A&M's 17-6, Vanderbilt's 20-4. There's no team in the SEC of 16 schools that has 20 wins except for Vanderbilt. So why the hell are we talking about putting in more than half of their conference? That makes no sense. So let's take a step aside for a fast break. When we come back, an all-new episode of NeapoliDANS will air. My weekly series every Wednesday at 9:45 a.m. Eastern Time with 2026 NFL Draft Prospect tight end Dan Villari is coming up next. Episode 7, The League is Listening. You don't want to miss a moment of this multi-layered conversation that starts with Dan Villari getting to make his own sports card with Panini and ends with him talking about some of these conversations with NFL teams and specifically going in to some of those interactions that he took from the Senior Bowl. All coming up on Wake Up Call inside the Great Lakes Honda City Studios right after this. Stay with us.
Hi, this is Amy from Mother's Cupboard, home of the whole frittata. We are open daily 6 a.m. to 1:30 p.m. For takeout orders, call 315-432-0942 and tune in to Wake Up Call with Dan Tortora for our monthly food challenge and try our Wake Up Call signature menu item available 7 days a week. Here at Mother's Cupboard, we are Central New York, and it's our honor to serve you.
Ma and Pa's Kettle Corn and Popcorn Factory remind us that every day is worth celebrating at 201 7th North Street in Liverpool, New York. Open Monday through Saturday in-store and always online at maandpaspopcorn.com. Serving our Central New York community and beyond, order anywhere, anytime at maandpaspopcorn.com. Stop in to get a tin at Ma and Pa's on 201 7th North Street in Liverpool, New York to get your half-price refills for the rest of your life. Come to Ma and Pa's for your holiday gift giving for family, friends, employees, and clients. And remember, for fundraising and events, to call 315-450-6272. That's 315-450-6272. Ma and Pa's Kettle Corn and Popcorn Factory. How corny are you?
This is Jimmer Sikowski, owner-operator of Chick-fil-A Cicero, 7916 Brewerton Road in Cicero, right in front of the Home Depot. I had a deep feeling that God wanted me to do something bigger with my life and to help people, help others. I kept putting Chick-fil-A in my life, and I realized as I was going through the franchise selection process that positively impacting the lives of others was really core to what we do here at Chick-fil-A. First of all, it starts with the food. The food is brought in fresh daily. We bring in local produce. We prepare to order in the kitchen. We hand bread our chicken. We hand spin our milkshakes. It's great food. It doesn't taste like fast food. I think the second thing is the way people feel when they come in a Chick-fil-A restaurant. It's different. We try to treat people with intentional kindness here, which is very different and deeper than good customer service. And so I think it feels remarkable for most people to come in a Chick-fil-A restaurant. And then lastly, the impact that we try to have in the community is very different. It's a big part of the expectation of every operator of a Chick-fil-A restaurant is that they're actively engaged in their community, they're a leader in the community, and they're making a difference. When they realize that what we're striving to do is to shine a little light in their life, that's a very, very different experience than you will have at any other quick service restaurant. And it's that remarkable experience that I think people will emotionally connect with.
Welcome here to a very special edition of Wake Up Call. You know that NeapoliDANS is a signature segment that we do right here where sports meets life inside of the Great Lakes Honda City studio. So coming out of this fast break, I am very happy to bring this to you. It was an idea, a vision back in December of 2025, and we've turned it into a multi-episode road to the NFL draft for Dan Villari. Of course, I'm Dan Tortora. That's Dan Villari, DT and DV. And this NeapoliDANS episode 7, The League is Listening. Dan, how are we doing?
I'm doing great, man. How are you?
I'm doing well. I see the Senior Bowl. I like it.
Yeah, baby.
Can appreciate it. Got the Hula Bowl one last time, or a couple times ago. Now we got the Senior Bowl one. So, Did you get to do anything with Panini? Because obviously Panini works with the NFL, has done a bunch of cards over the years, a lot of great stuff. I got a lot of Panini cards. So did they do anything with you in that respect?
Yeah, we took like a photo shoot and we ended up getting like 500 cards of our faces on it, and they're sick.
Oh, wow. That's awesome.
Yeah.
So,
we were like the players were like trading them in the locker room after the game. So it was pretty sick.
Can you take one, put it aside, sign it, and make sure that I get that one?
Yeah, for sure. I got like 500 of them. I got you.
Yeah. But I mean, that's got to be cool, right? Because when I saw Panini, because it used to be Reese's. So, I mean, I'm sorry that you didn't get a bag full of Reese's because Lord knows those are just from heaven. But
Yeah.
to get your own card's pretty sweet. So what was the pose? What'd you do?
I'm like this, cross-armed, but we did a bunch of poses.
Oh, okay.
But that was the crossed arms was the one that they put on the card.
Okay.
Yeah, I could show you if you want.
Yeah, show it to me. I want to see it.
All right.
Yeah. Let's grab it. Let's take a walk through the life of Dan Villari here, and I want to see this card. So for those of you watching and listening that might have just jumped in here, Dan is getting his card that he made at the Panini Senior Bowl with Panini doing NFL cards and working with the NFL for so many years now to bring us some of our favorite products, not just of football cards, but of cards in general. Dan got to make his own card with Panini, and so there it is. Look at that, Villari. Go a little bit closer. Look at that. That's cool, and that's signed.
Nice, ain't it?
Yeah, I see it. Look at that. Look at that young face. You little baby face Villari here. I love it. So
Stuff is tough, man.
that's good. So when you made your card, you do the pose. They have you do a bunch of different things. They don't tell you which one they're going to take. You cross your arms. They take. How did they present? Like, when did you do it? Did you do it like when you first got there, and then they present it to you? Bring me through the making of your card.
Yeah, when we registered, we did like a million different things to register, paperwork, and then the last thing was the photo shoot, and it was like 4 stations, and you did some poses with the football, then you went in like a frame, like a pretty much like a big card frame,
Yeah.
and the guy was just telling you like poses to do, and yeah, that was pretty much it. We did a few stations of photos, and then we were on our way. That was the first night.
So when did they give you your card?
They had it in our locker when we got to the stadium the day of the game. They had a pair of shoes in our locker, cards, a pretty sick like magazine about the Senior Bowl.
Yeah.
And then, yeah, and that was it.
It sounds like they treated you very well, Panini, with the Senior Bowl.
Yeah, they did. Gave us a backpack, T-shirts, a lot of stuff, a lot of cool stuff.
So, I mean, for you, you didn't know you were going to get it. So you show up to the game, you go to the locker, you go to your locker, and like you said, the sneaks and everything are in there. The cards are in there. Bring me into that moment for you of reaching for the card, not knowing what pose they did, then looking at it for the first time.
I was just like doing this. I was like looking at it like, yeah, like I just loved it. It was sick. And then I was shocked when like everybody was like, "Yo, let me get a card." I was like, "You want my card?" Like,
Yeah.
and everybody's like trading cards. So now I have like a bunch of players from all over the country in the little box over there.
When I was gonna, so who do you remember? Like, who did you trade with? Do you remember some of the guys you traded with?
Yeah, all the tight ends, Alabama tight end, Wyoming tight end, Ohio State, Stanford, USC wide receiver, few LSU guys, who else? Few linemen. Yeah, I have it over there, but
Yeah.
a lot of cool guys, a lot of great players.
So it was almost like a jersey swap in a way, but you got to do a lot
Yeah.
more of them because they were cards. These guys that you did this, I mean, were these guys you got to build relationships with? Because I know you said when we talked in episode 6 of NeapoliDANS that you were picking the brain of these tight ends and just looking at what they do and how they do it. So are these cards essentially the guys that you got to spend a little bit more time with? I know you said you got all the tight ends, so was this more of like, hey, we respect each other, like, hey, I respect you, Villari, I respect you too, and just having that kind of back and forth while you were at the Senior Bowl and say like, hey, I want to commemorate this by grabbing a card. Did you feel like those card swaps were essentially like I respect you, you respect me, jersey swap in a way.
Yeah, yeah, you could say that for sure. I was also, it was pretty cool because even guys I didn't talk to all week were like, "Let me get your card." Like, I think everyone was just trying to get as many as you could. But
Yeah.
definitely the guys I had a relationship with were the first guys that I got cards from. Especially there was like 7 or 8 dudes that I trained with in Florida
Yeah.
um, that went to the Senior Bowl. So I got all their cards, and it's cool because I went down to train in Fort Myers for like 2 weeks before the Senior Bowl, and I didn't really talk to a lot of guys.
Yeah.
We was just like, "What's up?" And once I got to the Senior Bowl, I got to sit down with all these guys. You know, um, Arkansas linebacker, Texas Tech linebacker, Rodriguez, Jennings Dunker. I don't know if you've seen him. He's a stud, Iowa tackle. Um, but BYU linebacker, bunch of dudes, and
Yeah.
we got really close. So we got to have an opportunity to have conversations and get to know each other at dinner and breakfast. And it's kind of cool. It's like all week it was like fall camp. So when you suffer with the guys, like that's when
Yeah.
you get close. Like that is when you get the closest with your boys is when you're suffering and going through those tough schedules.
Well, I was going to ask you that. Like, how did you break the ice? Was the ice just kind of broken, sweating through a practice and kind of looking to your left and to your left and your right and just being like, damn, that was crazy. And the guy going, yeah, I know. And just kind of, I mean, did the game break the ice or were there other things where you just kind of went up to people?
There's just a lot of there's a lot of meals.
Yeah.
So pretty much when you're sitting down for a meal, you chop it up with a guy, and all the guys at the Fort Myers gym end up sitting together, and then we'll be like, man, this schedule is crazy, like, and then we'll talk about like what's going on,
Yeah.
and basically like the meals.
Favorite meal that you had at the Senior Bowl? I got to know.
Uh, they kept it pretty healthy.
Okay.
Um, so it was pretty standard stuff. It was good though, and but my favorite meal was when I went to a steakhouse with my mom and dad on
Okay.
Friday night. Yeah, that was the best. I forgot what it was called, but really nice place. Alabama's got like you walk into like the hotels there, and it's like a museum. The architecture is like old fashioned,
Yeah.
so it's pretty cool. Pretty cool buildings and stuff over there.
So got to spend some time with mom and dad, got to have the family out. And I mean, I think that's the biggest thing before we get into the fact that you spoke with all 32 teams and dig a little bit deeper into that. If I know anything about you and I just pay attention to what I've experienced, when I was in Boca Raton for the Boca Raton Bowl, that's when I met your family because they happened to come into O'Brien's Irish Pub where I was broadcasting for 2 days with Syracuse alumni. And then, you show pictures, you see stuff online of your family in the stands for the Hula Bowl. And then here we are with the Senior Bowl, and you're talking about your parents being there. I mean, the Villaris find a way. I don't know how many sick days your family has, but I think your dad's taking paternity leave, but there's no baby. Like, there's something to be said about the fact that Villari's always, I mean, that's got to mean a lot to you that
Yeah.
wherever, whenever, it just seems like y'all travel pretty well together.
Yeah, it seems like my dad saved all his sick days for football. It's literally what he does. I mean, it means the world to him. He has a blast,
Yeah.
and yeah, he's just I think my dad put in about 40 years of construction, so
Yeah.
he's higher up now. He's a super,
Yeah.
so I think he has the respect and the leeway to take off for on Friday to come catch my game. So shout out to him. It's great to see him, man. And even sometimes I'm like, it might be a drag. Like it might have been a drag to get to Mobile, Alabama,
Yeah.
connecting flight. Got to take off on Friday.
Yeah.
And I told him, I said, you guys could watch it on TV. Like, have a little party, watch it on TV, and just save the trouble. But my dad was like, "Nah, we gotta come. Like, I gotta go. I gotta be there." And then he dragged my mom with him, and so yeah, he loves it.
I mean, I think about it like this, how many parents can ever say that their kid was in the Hula Bowl, their kid was in the Senior Bowl, their kid's in the NFL draft, their kid's
Right.
got a really good shot of being drafted. I mean, I think your parents understand we're doing this one time
Mm.
and we're going to enjoy this moment. And that leads perfectly into what this episode 7 is all about here on NeapoliDANS, exclusively on Wake Up Call with Dan Tortora inside the Great Lakes Honda City Studios. The league is listening. You went to the Hula Bowl. You spoke with 18 franchises in the NFL. There's 32. Those of you that do math, that means he spoke with more than half of the NFL. When you go to the Senior Bowl, you spoke with those 18 that you had already spoken with, plus the 14 that you had yet to speak with. So you have now talked to every single franchise, coast to coast, north to south, in America. Has that hit you yet?
Yeah, I mean, it was awesome. Pretty much everyone at the Senior Bowl got an opportunity to talk to all 32. It was like a maze you walk through. You literally go from one table to the next,
Yeah.
20-minute increments for 3 hours straight. So just talking to everybody and them just telling me that they know about me and they watched the film and they like me. It was cool.
Yeah, I mean, you say like, hey, everybody at the Senior Bowl has an opportunity to speak with all 32, but there's not a lot of people that get invited to the Senior Bowl when it comes to the amount of names that are eligible for the NFL draft. Again, as we go through this and I go up and down, if I go to sheerly just tight ends that were invited to this thing, I'm looking at a very short list of those that play that position. So I'm looking at a few names that are on here. Sam Roush, who I interviewed from Stanford, you mentioned him. NC State, Justin Jolly, who I also spoke with. Tanner Koziol of Houston, Joshua Cuevas of Alabama, as well as John Michael Gillenborg of Wyoming, who you mentioned. Will Kakmarek is of Ohio State, who you also mentioned here. And I want to make sure I don't miss anybody. DJ Rogers from TCU and Nate Borkircher of Texas A&M, as well as Matthew Hibner of SMU and yourself. So as I look at this list, that when we were talking originally about this, there was 8 tight ends that were on the roster for the Senior Bowl, and all in all, there ended up being, 10 here? I think that I counted. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. Yeah, there was only 10 tight ends in the entire nation. There's 136 FBS schools. That's not including FCS, D2, D3, none of that. There's 136 schools. 10 of them were represented at the tight end position. You were one of those 10 in the entire country of 136 FBS plus everybody else. That's got to be something to you, Dan, when you did not start your career as a tight end.
Yeah, it's something, man, for sure. Hasn't sunk in, I'm just not that guy that, I should see the flowers and see the light more often, but I'm so here all the time that yeah, I didn't even think man, I'm one of, what was it, 10 tight ends?
Yeah.
In the whole country here. I'm just focused on being the best right now out of these 10. But yeah, it's pretty cool that to hear you say that for sure.
And you're the only person on the entire squad at the Panini Senior Bowl to represent the Syracuse Orange. The only spotlight on that school and that football program is Dan Villari, the guy that came in, that was asked to change positions, that was trying to figure out how to get on the field, that did a little bit of everything, that was a chameleon, is the only person that got asked to be there. I mean, when you look at how you started at Syracuse to being at the Senior Bowl as the only representative of the entire Syracuse team. What does that mean from where you started of, I don't know if I'm going to get on the field based on what they're telling me, to now I'm the only representative they have in the Senior Bowl?
First off, I think if we won a few more games, I would have had some of our teammates there for sure. A lot of great players that were overlooked. But it's insane, man. I mean, from where I started at Cuse in 2022, the injuries, the being told I'll never play tight end in the ACC, like, it's insane. And it's funny because my first roommate in college at Michigan was Matt Hibner, the SMU tight end.
Yeah.
So that first summer there, he was my roommate. I was a quarterback throwing routes to him, and 5 years later, I'm at the Senior Bowl with him. It's like just insane how life goes.
How did you experience that moment with Matt to start your career at Michigan? Like you said, throwing passes to him. You're a quarterback. He's a tight end. Then he ends up at SMU. You end up at Syracuse. You guys go up against each other. And I mean, like this, well, I mean, with SMU now in the ACC, the world is so tiny when it comes to sports. How did you experience the Senior Bowl together? And did you take the time to sit down and go, bro, we were teammates. Now we're here. And we both went to different places. And I was the guy throwing to you. Now I'm the guy trying to catch passes just like you are.
Yeah, I said to him, like, man, we really went from being locked up in a hotel room during COVID, not being able to leave, to being miserable, depressed, to this 5 years later. And he was just like, it's insane. But he was on the other team, so
Yeah.
I really didn't get a lot of opportunities to talk to him. But when he first got there, we talked, and yeah, it's crazy, dude. It's crazy.
So in this crazy world, in this crazy road to get here, we talk about our faith in God. And something that took me 40 years to realize, but his plan is better than ours.
Amen.
How has God shown you his plan works?
Because whatever I've ever been worried about has happened, and it just continues to happen.
Yeah.
As long as I continue to have faith, and I continue to work, and I continue to be a good person, and I continue to be someone to look up to in this world. And it's just that simple, man. So many people. I'll never forget. Remember Eric Coley?
Yeah. Yeah.
So that first year in 2023, when I was playing quarterback and I was balling out, we used to meet every like Monday night and like just go through the Bible, and just because I said I wanted to grow my faith, I didn't want to be a pretender. I wanted to actually learn the Word, and he was like, "Yeah, I'll teach you, man." So every Monday night we talked, and he just said to me once, he was like, "I hope you realize what God has done for you. Like, isn't it insane what he's done for you? This year alone." And I'm like, and I just never forget. It was just a simple sentence he said, but every year I got to keep reminding myself, like, look what he's done for you. Look what he's done for you. Because I'm not, every day I said I'm like not, it's not that I'm not grateful, but I should be more grateful. I should sit back and appreciate more. But I've always been that guy who's 100 miles an hour all the time.
Yeah.
But that's what's got me here. So I got to continue that.
Yeah. And I think, and I'm right there with you, that you have to find a way to marry the two of, I'm always on to the next thing, not because I'm greedy, but because I'm a go-getter and I want to achieve things in my life and I don't want to waste time, but then to also take a step back and say, thank you. Like, thank you for this. And I love that. I love that you mentioned Eric Coley. and that whole story of, are you seeing? So I'm going to echo Eric Coley right now, and I'm going to say to you, Dan, are you seeing what God has done for you? Has it sunk in that the entire NFL knows your name, has heard your voice, and has had some type of personal interaction with you, one-on-one interaction with you? Are you seeing ahead of this draft what God has done in your life?
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. And I'm just, ever since I've been in Florida, I've just been getting closer to him. I've been reading more books about the Bible. I've been taking notes. I've just been um, trying to grow closer to him, and I just feel better. I just feel better all the time. I'm content with life, and I know I'm composed, but on draft day, I know it's all gonna come out. And I think about that every single day. I think about that phone call and what it's gonna mean to me and my family and how it's gonna feel.
Well, and you talk about that phone call. The league has been listening. They've talked to you. They've gotten to know you. What has been some of these interactions, if you go back to the things that stuck out, the questions that were asked, the conversations that were had, when the league has listened to you, what have they asked you for? What were they looking to hear from you?
Everyone just first they want to know my background, um, just my story, and that kind of leads the whole conversation. Just telling my story, and right away they know like, all right, this kid's tough. Like this kid's been through some stuff, and he's never stopped. Then they ask you little questions like, what ticks you off? What do you do to prepare for a game? It's 3rd and 6. What's your favorite pass play? Draw it up for me. Stuff like that. I had Miami ask me, what are you doing on a Friday night in Miami? Um, so just stuff like that.
So the character questions. What are you doing on Friday night? That type of stuff. How did you answer the questions of essentially what these teams are asking you is, can we trust you? Are you responsible? Do we have to worry about you? Do we have to go find you? So when you got those questions, how did you respond to the character questions?
I was just honest. It's funny because that Miami conversation specifically, they were like, they're like, what are you doing on Friday night in Miami? I'm like, I'm taking the hottest chick in the city out. Like that was the first thing that came to my mind because like it's important to just be honest all the time. And this was after I told them my whole routine, what I do on a daily basis, how I take care of my body, my mindset. So they know I'm locked in.
Yeah.
But, you're not a robot. You gotta, show that you're a human as well. But it was funny. They all laughed. They were all cracking up laughing. And one guy was like taking notes, like very serious. And I was like, I hope he didn't write something bad down.
Yeah.
But they were cool guys, man. I really liked the Dolphins guys.
That's always the thing in therapy. When they look at you, they don't say anything, and they're like, or they say interesting, and they start writing, and you're like, what are you putting in that notepad right now?
Yeah, yeah. I was like, I'm laughing with everybody, and I'm looking at the guy in the middle, and I'm like,
Yeah.
Yeah,
So, so besides the character questions, we've talked a little bit, but not a lot about the drawing up plays. What have you done in those moments? I mean, I know that the world has seen the John Gruden moments where like he would ask a quarterback like, come up here to the board and show me that you have intelligence, show me that you're a student of the game. But when they're asking you at the tight end position, like draw us up a play, do this, how confident are you? Do you have like a set of plays? Can you just kind of go to them in a photographic memory and say, okay, yep, I remember this from the book? Like how quickly can you drum up a play? And do you have a bunch of them in your arsenal where if they ask you 3rd and 6, but then they ask you, okay, it's 2nd and 10 or something like that? I mean, do you have different stuff ready to go?
Yeah, I was prepared. I have 4 or 5 play calls that I love, run game and pass game, and you kind of got to just, because you forget a lot after the season, so you got to go back into your playbook and kind of just, I literally read through my notes from every single game leading up to the Senior Bowl. And I just cruise through them, read them. I draw my favorite plays. I talk through them to myself. And then you just show up and you're kind of ready for whatever they're going to throw at you. And me being a quarterback, like, it's easy. Like, I feel like my IQ is really good. Football IQ is really good. So that was the fun part for me. I was ready to go right away. No stuttering, nothing. And then the Saints tight end coach actually sat me down and he like pulled up some film and he was like, what technique is this end in? What technique is this guy in? What defense are they showing? So that was pretty cool. The Saints did that for me and kind of wanted to see if I had a clue, like very simple questions, like
Yeah.
just wanted to see if I had a clue about football. And I knew I was more advanced than that, but.
Who threw you the craziest curveball?
Curveball. Oh man. Nobody threw me a curveball. I think later on in this process they'll throw me some curveballs.
Yeah.
But at the Hula Bowl, I wasn't as prepared as I was for the Senior Bowl.
Okay.
With the playbook stuff because we were learning the Hula Bowl playbook, and I honestly didn't know that they were going to ask any questions about our playbook. So the Browns asked me a question about our playbook, and I kind of I knew the play, I just forgot the name, and I was so pissed. I was like, I can't believe I don't remember the name of this play right now. And then so after that moment, I was like, all right, I better know every single call.
Yeah.
So I don't look stupid like that, but it wasn't that bad. One Chief scout told me, I guess this is a curveball, but he just told me like, I came to Syracuse in August and didn't even know who you were. Didn't think anything of you. Didn't think you were much. Then I came back in like September, October, and I was like, this kid's a really good football player. Who is this kid? And I was like, shit, that's usually what happens. So thanks for being honest with me. And he was like, yeah, I'm just being honest with you. And I'm like, it's fine.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, it's better than going the other way, right? So
Yeah.
before I let you go, besides character questions and these questions about, drawing up plays or understanding defenses, what other questions came from NFL teams that really stuck out to you and kind of in what they were looking for or what they were trying to assess when it came to you? What are some other things that you just felt like, oh, okay, like this is important to this team, or maybe you heard it with a lot of different teams?
A lot of them ask me, what do you need to improve in your game?
Yeah.
And then we talked about that, and I said like blocking bigger ends, having perfect technique with that. And one team actually said like, you don't think it's like a strength issue for you? And I was like, nah, I don't think. I think I'm very strong on the football field. Like in the weight room, not the strongest guy, won't wow you, but on the field, it's like it's a little different. I've just always been that way. So I just like expressed to them that I know how to get really good at blocking, and I just need to rep it a lot, and that's it, just reps. So I know if my technique is perfect, I'm athletic and I'm violent enough to get the job done. I have the will to get the job done. A lot of it's will, You know, a lot of guys don't want to throw their face into a 300-pound, beast who gets paid hundreds of millions to run through your face and rush the passer. So I think I expressed my willingness to them a lot, and they like that.
Two quick hitters, Giants and Jets. Didn't talk to them at the Hula Bowl, talked to them at the Senior Bowl. I know you said to me that you said to the Jets guy, like, it's about dang time. But what do you remember from the Jets and Giants conversations at the Senior Bowl?
I know the so the interview process was like, it's like very fast.
Yeah.
So like you start sweating a little bit, and I remember throwing like 5 Zins in like during the whole thing, like my heart's beating because of the nicotine. But I sat down with the Jets, and the guy was like, "You nervous?" And I was like, "No," because I just killed 5 interviews in a row, like crushed them. So I was like, "No, I'm not nervous." But that's how he started that one off. Then it went great. He said they said they wanted me to come to their local day. Um, and then the Giants, I believe I was talking to the GM, Joe Schoen, and yeah, he was asking me a lot of questions,
Yeah.
and I didn't realize it was him until after. I was like, this guy looked very familiar. Meanwhile, my friends back home would have been, my friends back home would have been freaking out. Like they're all Giant fans. Yeah, so I told them that I didn't even realize it was him,
Yeah.
and they were like, "That's so cool, man."
My last question, because it's my team, and you didn't interact with them at the Hula Bowl, but you did at the Senior Bowl. What do you remember of your time with the Jacksonville Jaguars?
Oh, we talked about LeQuint a
Okay.
lot. And I just told them my story, and they loved it. They're great guys. They just love the toughness that I was talking about, and um, we were talking about LeQuint. We were talking about, I was telling him I always tried to, even though he was younger than me, I tried to emulate his game because everyone should play the game of football like him. Like he's relentless. He he doesn't back down from anything. He's not the biggest dude either, but his willingness is why he's balling out right now in the league. Like,
Yeah.
um, so like I talked about his energy and his toughness is what a team needs and is what we needed back in, especially back in 23 when me and LeQuint were playing quarterback. Wildcat, I said like me and him were the sparks. And I feel like I'm a spark just like him because the energy I bring to practice and the competitiveness and the grittiness that me and him bring.
Well, in Jacksonville finding value in him, go back and look at that tape, and you'll see value in the man that was right there next to him, in Dan Villari. Dan, you get the final word here. The league is listening. So if a GM or a scout or whoever is right here paying attention to this and just heard you discuss your interactions with all 32 NFL teams, just what your takeaways were, you get the final word. What do you want to say to the league right now from everything that you've experienced as we get closer to the draft?
Um, Pick me, man. You won't regret it. I'm gonna wow the world, man. I truly believe that, and I truly believe that teams are gonna regret passing on me. And one question one scout asked me was, he said, why should we take a chance on you? And I said, it's not a chance. Like I've been playing this position for 3 years. I know how to work. This is all I ever wanted in life. Like my work ethic is impeccable. It's second to none, and I'm just gonna continue to get better. And there's nothing that's gonna stop that. Um, and I'm a great teammate. So I said it's not a chance. And I can play ball. So that was. If you think it's a chance, I'm here to tell you it's not. It's not a chance. It's a guarantee.
Dan Villari, no better way to end this episode of NeapoliDANS. As always, my friend and my brother, you know that I love you, and I know that God is guiding you and putting his light on you everywhere you go. So I'm very, very proud of you, and this journey has only just begun.
Definitely. Amen, brother.
Avicoli's restaurant, located on 7839 Oswego Road in Liverpool, New York, has been serving our community for decades. Your place to go for home cooking on the corner of Route 57 and Wetzel Road is just minutes from Liverpool High School. And every single month, Wake Up Call with Dan Tortora is on site, on location, with Liverpool sports, student athletes, coaches, and administration telling their stories throughout the year. We look forward to seeing you on site at Avicoli's for their casual pizza side, their fine dining, as well as their bar. And of course, you can order online at myavicoli's.com. That's myaviccollis.com. For takeout, delivery, and catering, call 315-622-5100. That's 315-622-5100. Come on in to the neighborhood spot Avicoli's, open 7 days a week in Liverpool, New York. K9 Campground Dog Boarding is your home away from home for your furry-loving friends. Open 7 days a week with drop-off and pickup times in the morning and later on in the day and early evening. K9 Campground Dog Boarding is the spot to trust with your dog for short and long-term stays. Call 315-299-4013 for more information. That's 315-299-4013, and go to k9campground.com as well. That's K9, ground.com, where you will find all of the information on their different cabins, which include the classic cabin, executive cabin, grand cabin, and luxury cabin. K9 Campground Dog Boarding, where your dog will have indoor and outdoor areas as well as their own private cabin for any size, any breed, as well as dogs with different needs. Dog parents and dogs alike choose K9 Campground Dog Boarding. Isn't that right, Lily? Looking for your next ride? Look no further than Great Lakes Honda City, located on 7140 Henry Clay Boulevard in Liverpool, New York. Serving our community for decades, their new and pre-owned vast array of vehicles are available to you Monday through Saturday on site. To search from home, shop at GreatLakesHondaCity.com. Call 315-365-5576 to set up an appointment. That's 315-365-5576 for Great Lakes Honda City, 7140 Henry Clay Boulevard in Liverpool, New York. Great cars, great people, Great Lakes. Welcome back here to Wake Up Call with Dan Tortora inside the Great Lakes Honda City Studios. Happy to be here with you where sports meets that thing called life, and I am always honored and privileged to be with you up and down the East Coast, the Midwest, the West Coast, and all around the globe on Wake Up Call with Dan Tortora. Of course, you're with us on youtube.com/wakeupcalldt, facebook.com/wakeupcalldt, and on wakeupcalldt.podbean.com. I'm picture in picture with DP. I'm DT, and this DT and DP special is what we do every year with Dave Pasiak speaking on the NBA during the season, as well as the trade deadline, free agency, the NBA draft, and of course the postseason with the longtime head coach and analyst of the game. And now we have an opportunity to react on the 2026 NBA trades following the deadline last week. Mr. Pasiak, how are we doing?
Doing great, Dan. How you doing today?
I'm doing well, and I want to address something that's been on my mind, and it's funny because Stephen A. actually talked about it this morning, and I happened to see it, and he's echoing my sentiments. This isn't a
Should we worry that you're on the same page as Stephen A.?
I knew somebody was going to say that, but There's something that's been on my mind for a while, and I've been very passionate about this. And I got asked last week about LeBron, and I talked about this. But it's not just LeBron. You know, it's happened with teams all over the country. It's happened with players all over the country. And there was a time where the San Antonio Spurs did this, and the NBA investigated them. When Tim Duncan, Tony Parker, Manu Ginobili, are they injured or are they sitting out? Why are they sitting out? They can't sit out. They're healthy. You got to play. We're trying to sell tickets. It used to be a no-no that very few in the league were doing, allegedly. Now it's become a normalcy, and it's been pandered to so much that now we have rules of you got to play this many games to be eligible for the All-Star, and you got to play this many games to be eligible for awards, and maybe we should shorten this season to appease this lack of work. I don't know about you, Dave, but I show up to work every day. And if I don't feel good, I show up to work. And if I had a tough day yesterday or a tough night last night, I show up to work. I struggle with, and I've asked kids this, and they didn't really have an answer for me last week because they hadn't really thought of it. I said, okay, let's say you're a fan of the Lakers and you live in Syracuse and you want to go see LeBron and Luka play and the whole Reeves and all that. You want to see everybody play. So you go across country, you pay for your plane tickets, your food, your Uber, your hotel, tickets to the game, and you buy jerseys. So you've spent at least let's say you spent $2,500 to go across country. You show up at the game. LeBron's 100% healthy. He's giggling in sweatpants. Reeves is sitting there looking around the room in sunglasses. Marcus Smart's drinking a Slurpee, hanging out, not playing today. And you're sitting there saying to yourself, I've never been across country. I've never been to a Laker game. I just spent $2,500. And I'm not going to see a dang player that I want to see play. I struggle with this, Dave, because I grew up in a time where there were not nutritionists. There was not an entire strength and conditioning team. There was not all of this AI-generated information and statistical analysis of this, that, and the third. There was no mental health coach. Yet those guys played whole seasons. They played with the flu. They played when something was broken, sprained, dislocated. Tape it up. Send me back in. Guys played if they slammed their head on the floor, for goodness sakes. I am not a fan of load management sitting out. And if you do sit out, don't get paid for that day. Don't get paid for that game. If I showed up here to broadcast and I just sat and looked at the screen for 2 hours, what are people paying for? So I'd love to get your thoughts on this, because I addressed it with LeBron because it seems egregious at times, but it's also happened with other teams. And you look at Steph Curry and Kevin Durant. I mean, you look at certain situations all around the country. It's not just one team or one player. But I can't get behind this load management. I'm healthy, but I'm not going to play. And screw the fans that show up that wanted to see me tonight. I know that there are thousands upon thousands of D1, D2, D3, JUCO, G League, overseas players that would kill for an opportunity to play in the NBA. And yet now we're pandering to this very weak, very, entitled NBA. And I think it's causing even more people to turn away from the game, because why see a healthy player sit and do nothing? And I'd love to get your thoughts, because I struggle with this, especially growing up around Barkley and Hakeem and Jordan and Kareem and Magic and so on and so forth.
Yeah, I think it's a lot more complicated issue than I think it appears on the surface. And a lot of it's driven, there's a combination of things that drive it. One is the money in the game today and the investment that that teams are making in their players, in combination with all the advances in health science, and they got the ability to track how many steps a guy takes in a game, and how many times they run up and down the court, and so all that stuff is, the science is at a level that it's, you mentioned guys hitting their head on the floor. I mean, same thing, goes in the NFL as basketball. I mean, you go back before all this awareness of head injuries and concussions, and I just got my bell ring and I go back in there, whether it's basketball or football or whatever, hockey, whatever. So I think we've gotten across the board, and I see it at my level at Division III basketball, and I'm coaching junior college basketball. I mean, we're a lot more thorough and a lot more knowledgeable about injury treatment and injury prevention, all that stuff, than we were. I've been coaching 42 years. I mean, if you go back 20, 25 years, we knew a fraction of what we know today about injury treatment, injury management, and rest, nutrition, all that kind of stuff. And I think one of the reasons LeBron has been as good as he's been for as long as he's been is he's probably invested more in his body, and having people around him and kind of the training and maintenance and prevention of his body as any elite athlete maybe ever. And that's what's allowed him to stay at the level he's been at for as long as he's been. So, I think with the money involved, that it's like the motivating factor with teams and how to maximize their return on investment. From a fan standpoint, I mean, I had a situation just a couple weeks ago, really close to what you talked about. My young man is my student assistant for 5 years, just graduated last spring. Yeah. And he's like a huge LeBron fan. Never seen LeBron in person, and LeBron's his like favorite all-time athlete in any sport. And so he and his buddy, they bought tickets and spent a lot of money when the Lakers were in Brooklyn a couple of weeks ago to go see LeBron play. Yeah. And I was telling him, I said, James, I hope that I hope that they don't choose that as a game where LeBron's going to sit and everything. And it was funny because James had all mapped out, and not on a back-to-back, and he was pretty confident they're going to play, and they laid out a lot of money for tickets. And fortunately for them, LeBron played, and he got to see his favorite player play before he retires and everything. But your point is well taken. If you had Lakers tickets last night to see, on the surface, you got Lakers and San Antonio, and the Spurs, Wemby and an up-and-coming team, and play the Lakers. And you had tickets last night, and all of a sudden you got no LeBron, you got no Luka, you got no Reeves, and the Lakers are basically running out the G League team. Bronny's playing most of the night. It's kind of a roll of the dice as a sports fan, and it does. I think what it does is it shortchanges the casual fan. That, I mean, if you're a Lakers season ticket holder, I mean, you go into all the games, you find out that day or two ahead LeBron's not playing or Luka's not playing or whatever, you give the seats to your buddies for a night or whatever, or you don't go to the game, or you put them up on StubHub, no big deal. But I think with the casual fan that is not a season ticket holder and cannot afford to be going to the games pretty much whenever they choose. I think that's the really unfortunate negative consequence of all this is the scenario you talked about, where you could have dropped a lot of money and well ahead of time to get good seats to watch the Lakers play, or the Sixers play, or the Raptors play, whoever your favorite team is, and then you happen to catch them on a night where they're. I mean, it can happen anyway with a traditional injury, but it's magnified. When you're talking about, the load management, rest, and whatnot. So it's it's a difficult issue, and I think it's one without an easy solution.
Well, I mean, I think my easiest solution is don't play, don't pay. You don't play tonight? Fine. You don't want to play? You want to rest for the next 3 days? That's cool. Well, I don't think it's fair that these fans just paid $1,000 to see you, so I'm not paying you tonight. I mean, I understand that as they get older, they have to go through the wear and tear. But see, what guys used to do is they used to retire. They go, okay, I went out here and I got after it for 12 years and I'm going to retire. I don't, if you sat down Tim Duncan and Hakeem Olajuwon or David Robinson, Gary Payton, Patrick Ewing, and so on and so forth, Jordan Pippen, Rodman, and you said to them, hey, you guys can play 65 out of 82 games. They didn't know that. That wasn't a possibility. That wasn't a thing back then. And there was this drive and this desire. And I feel like, you speak about magnification, I feel like the NBA is magnifying American society, where we have this entitled belief that we can do half the amount of work but get the same amount of pay, or do no work and get paid. And, you know, that's also coming out of COVID, where they said, stay home, we'll send you money. And now people wonder why people don't show up to work. People go through training and never show up on their first day. People come to work and they don't care, because they have been told, if I do nothing, I'll make money. If I don't try, I'll make money. People graduate from college and think, I don't have to be a entry-level employee. I'm the CEO because that's what I think I should be. And how dare anybody tell me different? And that entitlement, I mean, I don't know how we're preparing anybody for the real world when you hand out free money, you hand out a free phone, you tell people to take days off in college. If they don't like who won the election, they can take a mental health day the day after the election. I mean, you and I, Dave, had to deal with life. And yeah, we should have had mental health people, and there should have been more when it came to therapy, and there should have been more with nutrition. I'm not going to deny any of those things. But there's a certain level of tough love, and there's a certain level of work ethic that this country doesn't embody right now. And I think that other countries laugh at us because they know that we're building generations of people that are not prepared for when real life smacks you in the face, because they've been coddled. And I feel like the NBA is kind of showing that coddling right now. I mean, I remember watching a game with Michael Jordan. He had the flu, and people were wondering why at halftime he only had 9 points. Because his temperature's over 100 degrees. That man should be in bed right now. I mean, there's so much to say about what the NBA provided in the past and what they provide now. And a lot of people, with the increase of mostly everything in America, they can't afford season tickets. Some people can't afford to go to one game, let alone two. And I understand that injuries happen, but rolling the dice with a 50-50 shot every game, like you said, you got somebody that's working for you, that's connected to you, and they're going to a game in Brooklyn, and he's got a 50-50 shot, and he has to do all this research. Well, they didn't play it back-to-back. Well, they didn't do this. Well, he didn't do this. Well, this didn't happen. Well, he wasn't on Oprah yesterday. Like, I mean, it's crazy that a fan has to research the themes and the patterns of NBA players and teams to try and hope that their money is going to be well worth it. And the NBA has turned so many people off because it's been 1-on-5. It's not been a lot of team effort with certain teams. Certain people don't play defense. Certain people are extremely just into themselves. There's nepotism that goes on. There's a lot of things that have taken people out of the NBA. And I understand. And I can't even fight them on it. But I just feel like it's a disservice to the country. And these guys are getting paid more than teachers, police officers, firefighters, and first responders. I think, Dave, that they can show up to play a game. I think that they can afford 3 to 4 minutes. It's better than not playing the whole time. And I can't get behind. I understand you want to protect your body, but this is your job. This is what you've chosen to do. In the case of LeBron, you're getting paid outrageous money. And if you can't find 4 minutes a night to get on the floor and run around, maybe you should retire. I mean, I don't like seeing guys. I feel terrible when it happens. I never want to see a guy. Robert Parrish played till he was, 42? But I don't remember Robert Parrish sitting out a game. I don't remember Robert Parrish taking a day off. But he played till he was 42. So he's right around LeBron's age. And I never heard Robert Parrish complain about anything or ask for load management. And that was back when he didn't have half the resources that LeBron or Steph or Kevin Durant or SGA or any of these guys have. So I can't really get behind this load management thing when guys with far less figured it out. And if you ask me the NBA players that I respect the most, I always go back there. Not that I don't think guys are talented now, but how am I supposed to sell a watered-down, diluted product day in and day out when that guy's making $25 million to sit on my bench? and there's a cop that's getting shot at tonight in Los Angeles down the street from the game where none of these guys are playing, making 25, 15, 10, $5 million. And here's this guy getting shot at for 25,000. I can't justify that.
Yeah. Like I said, it's a complicated issue. I think the Jordan comparison is not relevant. And the reason I say that is Jordan played the flu game. That's a playoff game, huge game. Most any elite player would have gone out there and done the same thing. If that was a random regular season game, Jordan's not playing. So, so I think the Jordan flu game, to compare it to regular season game, is really not apples to apples.
Fair.
I think the thing that, and this isn't like, I know the NBA gets the finger on this all the time, and I think a lot of that is because, there's 5 guys on the court. The players are more visible, and one guy is more impactful and whatnot. But baseball guys are taking days off all the time during the season. If you want to go at your favorite baseball player, you run a risk that he's taking a day off because it's the 4th game of a 4-game series or something. Or back to back of a day night or something like that. If you're a football fan, you buy tickets to last week or 2 weeks of the regular season. That's a roll of the dice. You might see a great game with playoff implications, but you got just good chances. The team's either out of the mix and they've shut down a guy for a year, or even more prevalent, if you found a good team, they got their playoff spot clinched. They're not playing their best quarterback, their star quarterback or their star defender or whatnot, for the playoffs. So I think it's not an issue that's unique to basketball. I think I think it gets more of a spotlight in the NBA because there's fewer players on the court, and the players themselves are, I guess the league is built around star players, and the players are more visible. But I think certainly that you got to have a lot of sympathy and a lot of, and I don't know, I think, your solution is idealistic about, okay, don't play them. One is the collective bargaining is never going to go for that in any sport. And 2, that's not a clean solution either, because you're not going to play the guy because he's got a legit injury, and then you have to say, well, if they load manage, you're not going to pay them, but if they're injured, we are going to pay them. Then you're going to get people playing games and teams playing games with, they're already injured, are they not injured? You'll have go back and forth between the team doctor and the individual, the individual health team or whatever. So I don't think that's a clean solution either. And I don't have a great solution for you. I really don't. I just think that there's a lot of tentacles to the issue, and it's not as simple as, if teams thought that it was maximizing their interests to run guys out there every night, no matter what, as opposed to protecting their investment, they'd be running guys out there every night. And, I don't like in a little bit of a pushback, like you say, the NBA is losing interest. The TV ratings are at a 15-year high. So I don't know that that's necessarily the case either. So
well, I feel like they've lost interest of certain generations that have just, when I've talked to people over the years, 30s, 40s, 50s, 60s, definitely 40s, 50s, 60s, they're like, I'm not putting myself around this anymore. And I think, listen, I respect the NBA, and I have my whole life. But these franchises used to run their players out there every night, and they were still trying to protect their investment. So it's, why is it different now? Why do we have to be different now? And why are we changing? If they have more resources, why are they playing less? And yeah, you're right. In other sports, baseball, you got your rotation. You know what pitcher's going to be out there, but I'll flip to Shohei Ohtani. Shohei Ohtani had Tommy John surgery. Anybody else would have been sitting out the entire year. That man banged 50 home runs and stole 50 bases while he was rehabbing as a pitcher. So I'd put that up against any NBA player that's sitting out because they feel like it on a Tuesday. And then when it comes to the NFL, you play 17 regular season games. If Josh Allen sat out 5 of those games, that would change the entire dynamic of the team. They probably wouldn't win those games, and nobody's coming. And when you talked about the NFL sitting guys down when you know you made the playoffs, that's not what the NBA is doing right now. They don't know they've made the playoffs. There's teams in playoff hunts that are sitting guys down. So I feel like there's a difference between saying, okay, Pat Mahomes, don't play week 18 because we know we're in and we know the seed we have, versus, hey, LeBron and Steph, don't play game 20, game 30, 34, 35, 36, 42, just because when we have no idea if we're going to make the playoffs. So, like you said, there's no easy solution to it, but it just seems to be pandering to something that I don't appreciate and I don't think is, I understand you want to keep the health of your body, but again, how did guys do it when they had almost no resources? Some of these teams might have not even had a strength and conditioning guy. They just had a janitor who's cleaning up at night who's been around the team for 25 years. It's like, hey, maybe try this next time. I saw that it worked with Barkley and Rex Chapman. But it's not something I like to see anymore. But I do want to get into the NBA trades, and I do want to get into the moves that were made. After you and I spoke, the trade deadline was close approaching, and it did approach and it did pass. And so when we go and we look at things that happened after you and I spoke, here with Dave Pasiak, the longtime coach and analyst of the game, on Wake Up Call with Dan Tortora inside the Great Lakes Honda City Studios, the Lakers, there was something out there, Dave, and this is why, you can't trust everything in the media. There was a report that Luke Kennard had signed a 2-year extension, and then there was a report that Luke Kennard had been traded. So, he was traded. He went to the Los Angeles Lakers. The Hawks got Gabe Vincent and a 2032 second-round pick from the Lakers. Your Sixers got a 2032 second-round pick swap. And so that was interesting here. Memphis got Eric Gordon, the guard from the Sixers, and the 2032 draft will have a second-round pick swap between the Sixers and the Grizzlies as part of the deal. There was a 3-team trade that had nothing to do with Giannis, but it had to do with the Bucks, with center Nick Richards, forward Nigel Hayes-Davis, and forward Ousmane Deng going to the Bucks. The Suns got Cole Anthony and Amir Coffey, and the Bulls got Nick Richards in this. So this is a weird situation where it was, I don't know why it's written this way, but the Bulls, the Suns, and the Bucks were all involved in Nick going to the Bulls. The Pelicans had a deal with the Knicks with Jose Alvarado going to the Knicks. The Pelicans getting Dalen Terry, 2 second-round draft picks, and cash. And I'll wait on a couple other ones because I feel like I don't want to run through this whole thing. So we know that Luke Kennard is a Laker. We know your Sixers got rid of Eric Gordon. And we know there was a 3-team deal with the Bucks, the Suns, and the Bulls that did not involve Giannis. So let's stop there and get your thoughts on those.
Yeah, well, I think, the Sixer move, like Gordon had kind of fallen out of the rotation, and so that's kind of like the move they made with McCain, where excuse me, where it's a salary. It's basically, we talked about last week where there's 3 things that motivate teams at the trade deadline in the NBA. One is bringing a part that's going to improve you for a playoff run. 2 is offload talent and acquire assets because you're not any good and you're trying to position yourself for the draft. Or 3 is, and this has become more of a thing in recent years, how do you manage your payroll so that you can avoid the first apron, especially the second apron tax. And I know that when this CBA came out, the prevailing thought was that with the second apron, that was going to kind of squash a lot of the ability for teams to make trades, and it's kind of turned out the opposite, to where teams are really going out of their way, even teams that are contending teams, to offload periphery parts to get themselves, below the tax threshold and everything. So I think that's what the Sixers move was. The Bucks move was kind of in the margins. You heard the Giannis talk all leading up to trades. Probably the Bucks did the right thing by not moving Giannis. They may, especially if they make out well, and there's more parts that might move between now and the draft and everything. I suspect they're going to take a shot at trying to reload and appease Giannis and stay at a contending level. And if that fails, and if Giannis is just, I want out, they probably can get more value for Giannis in the offseason and have more potential trade partners than they would have had at the deadline, where sometimes you are forced to unload a guy for pennies on the dollar because his contract's going to run out. And I mean, better to get, the thing about better to get something than nothing. So, so I think the Bucks probably, probably did the right thing by not making a move with Giannis now. I mean, you mentioned the Alvarado thing with the Knicks. I think that's kind of a sneaky good pickup for the Knicks. A guy that could, could incrementally improve them coming down the home stretch. And then the Kennard thing with the Lakers was just kind of, that seemed like it was a little bit all over the map, and this was happening and that was happening. You kind of spoke to that, so.
Yeah, it seemed really weird. I was live on the broadcast, and I made a mention that he had been extended 2 years, and then I saw something else pop up, and I'm like, okay, apparently he's getting traded to the Lakers, so this makes no sense. I do want to I want to get into a bunch of different things, but there's one that's on my mind right now, and I'm sure you can guess what it is, but we'll get into that in a second. The Nets made a deal with the Nuggets, and the Nets forward Hunter Tyson is who they bring in from the Nuggets. They got a 2032 second-round pick, and Denver gets a 2026 second-round pick, the least favorable of the Clippers or the Hawks. So Hunter Tyson is now a Net. And then we look at the Pacers-Clippers, and the Pacers got Zubik and got Kobe Brown from the Clippers. The Clippers got Benedict Mathurin as well as Isaiah Jackson, 2026 first-round pick from the Pacers, which is protected 1 through 4, 10 through 30, a 2029 first-round pick, and a second-round pick. So the Clippers get a bunch of picks here as well as 2 players. They give up 2 players. I'd like to get your thoughts on where the Clippers are at right now and where the Pacers are at, and if this Hunter Tyson move to the Nets has any weight to it, in your opinion.
Yeah, I think I'll start with the Clippers and the Pacers. I mean, the Clippers, getting rid of Zubac, getting rid of Harden, it really seems like they've, even though they started terrible this year, it really came on and put themselves in contention for a play-in spot and a playoff spot. But it feels like they just felt like what they had was not enough to get them to that championship contending level. So it's, they offloaded those guys. They got younger by getting rid of Harden, and bring Garland. And in the Zubac move, I think the Pacers, especially the way they protected their draft pick, I think they've done some homework on the draft, and they feel like if to pick the top 4 picks is where the value is. So that's where the protection is there. And I think Zubac, I think what the Pacers are looking at is, they kind of have written off this season, right? Yeah. Halliburton's out. They allowed some things to happen in the offseason that I think they wouldn't have allowed to had Halliburton not been out for the season. So I think the Pacers, by bringing in Zubac, they're looking to immediately fill that hole in the middle, and I think they're trying to position themselves to immediately jump back into contention come 26, 27. So what was the other one we mentioned? The Hunter Tyson.
Yeah.
That's another one that's a little bit in the margins. Like the Nets are a team that, they had 5 first-round draft picks this year, and quantity wasn't necessarily better than quality the way it's played out. So I think the Nets are like a team that's searching a little bit, trying to accumulate some parts, especially some young parts, and hopefully they can weave it together in the next year or two to where they get themselves back to a little bit of relevancy.
And we're going to go into some of this free agency too here. There's other things to be said about players that have moved, and you wonder, will they be moved and extended, or is this a temporary fix? Is it a Band-Aid to say, let's try to win right now, and this guy's auditioning to see what he could be after this. The Charlotte Hornets, who are still in contention to make this postseason, and when we talked last week, they had the final spot trying to, get into the play-in side of things in the NBA and the Eastern Conference. Well, they made 2 moves before the deadline was over. The Charlotte Hornets traded away Tyus Jones. They brought in Malachi Branham, guard for guard, with the Mavericks. And then they also did a trade with the Celtics where they gave the Celtics cash for the rights to Xavier Tillman. What do you think about where the Hornets are at right now as they made the last couple deals before the deadline hit?
Yeah, they're in a kind of a fascinating spot because I think that's a team that going into the season and early season, there was really very minimal expectations for. And they're a team that like kind of somewhat unexpectedly, I mean, you thought coming in the year, they're probably a year or two away from kind of getting themselves back in the conversation about teams, teams in the East that have a shot to make some noise. But like a little bit unexpectedly, they've played really good basketball in the last, 6 weeks or a month or so, and kind of got themselves. You said they're hovering right around the play-in right now. So I think they're an organization that, again, it's incremental moves. It's not it's not like a move that's going to immediately catapult them into the conversation that they could win the East or anything. Yeah. But I think they're a team that probably has had to pivot a little bit coming into the trade deadline from, first month of the season. You would have thought, they're going to be a team that's going to be accumulating assets and whatnot, with an eye towards a year or two down the road, to where coming into the deadline, because of how they played, they're kind of a little bit the anti-Clipper approach, right? The Clippers got themselves in the mix and still, made some moves that probably weakened them in the here and now. Yeah. Charlotte, I think, didn't do that, and if anything, made a couple the moves we talked about, incremental moves, to try to get them into the play-in and into the postseason, which I think for that franchise, given where they've been the last couple of years, I think that would be like, the Clippers, I think, have been high expectation and have not lived up to them, versus Charlotte, I think, has overperformed expectation, and I think that would be a big kind of feather in their cap for their fan base and whatnot, if they can get themselves into the postseason. So I think they really pivoted as we got into the deadline.
Yeah. I mean, it's interesting to see what teams are saying, hey, let's go right now, and the other teams that are dropping off assets, hoping for the best. There's teams that are gathering picks and looking toward the future, and we've seen these picks go out many, many years. Some are going to get a pick this year, some are going to have to wait 6 years or longer than that to see if these trades made sense with dropping off cash and players and whatnot for building toward the future. Here with Dave Pasiak, the longtime basketball head coach and analyst of the game, on Wake Up Call with Dan Tortora inside the Great Lakes Honda City Studios. I want to go to Chris Paul and the Raptors. Now, there was this thought of, okay, he's going to this team, but he's not going to be on the team. He's going to get waived. And it brought me right back to something I really didn't enjoy seeing, which was a bunch of years ago when I was growing up. Kenny Anderson got traded to the Raptors, and there was this thing on TV where they went into the locker room and they had the lights off, and they just kind of had enough light on his Raptors jersey, the purple with like the jagged lines, and it said Anderson, but it was number 7, but he never wore the jersey because he got traded there, but he never played in Toronto. And then here, fast forward to Chris Paul, and I say to myself, okay, here's another name that may never suit up. We see that, when it comes to a game, he's marked as out, but he hasn't been waived. He hasn't been released. He's still there. What are the Raptors doing right now, Dave, and what are your thoughts?
Well, if you believe everything you read, and again, like you talked about the Kennard thing, that's not necessarily a safe move. But if you believe everything you read and you hear, the Raptors have no intention of Chris Paul ever suiting up for them. So, I'm guessing that they thought that they could flip him in another deal at the deadline, which obviously didn't materialize. So, he's got a guaranteed contract. Yeah. So I don't know what, I'm not sure what they gain out of waiving him. They may do that at some point for a little cap relief, or, get his money off the books come summertime, to give themselves a little bit more mobility in free agency or whatnot. Or maybe they'll be able to you got to believe Chris Paul's like close to the end of the line, if not the end of the line. So I don't know what kind of market there'll be for him after this season. They're probably going to let him go at that point, I would guess.
SoFi is helping me get my money right to achieve.
Pardon me. Go ahead.
So anyways, so I said, I don't know if we'll ever see Chris Paul play again. So I don't know if the Raptors are going to get any kind of return on that other than expiring salary. So
yeah, and I was looking at his statistics, and for some reason that provoked a video to play. So pardon that interruption, but looking at the fact that he has only played 16 games this season, he hasn't started a game. He's been averaging 14 minutes a game. Speaking of Chris Paul, his points are 2.9 in a game, and so it's been quiet. Obviously, like you said, I mean, he's been in the league for a long time, and could this be the end? I wouldn't like to just see him get traded, never be a Raptor, and just kind of fade off into the sunset. But it's an interesting move by the Raptors because the Raptors are in contention. So, we talk about teams in contention, teams out of contention. The teams out of contention, did they make a move to try to get in, or are they building toward the future? The teams that are in contention, did they make a move that might send them out of contention? I mean, the Raptors are in the top 5 in the Eastern Conference. They're not going to be a play-in team right now. If they continue to win, they're putting themselves in good footing. So, and on the Clippers side of it, they're in right now. Barely. They have the last play-in spot, the 10 seed in this new look NBA playoffs that they've added these play-in games over the last few years. So, I mean, I don't really know what Toronto's doing because he's taking a roster spot. He's taking money. So if you waive him, then who do you bring in? But then why did you get him? And why did you do this? So, I mean, that it's a big question mark. And people thought, like you and I talked about, okay, if he doesn't suit up and he gets waived immediately, but he didn't get waived immediately. And now the more time that goes by, now you say, if he's going to take a roster spot, play him. If you're not going to play him, then waive him to get the roster spot. So, I mean, again, a team in contention that's holding up a spot for someone who's not playing, which is confusing.
Yeah, I think the best possible outcome, I think, for the Raptors, and this is probably, I think the problem they have right now is there's no real market for Chris Paul.
Yeah.
Right. Because his contract is guaranteed. So as I understand it, if they were to waive him, they're still on the hook for his salary. So I think, their best possible outcome right now would be if there's another team out there that would have an interest in signing Chris Paul as a free agent, and then he and the Raptors can negotiate a buyout so that the Raptors they would get some salary relief then and basically only have to pay him pennies on the dollar for his contract. Or maybe dimes on a dollar, whatever. I think the whole thing is if there's a market, a place Chris Paul would go, would sign as a free agent, maybe a team that would bring him in, a contending team that would bring him in for some veteran leadership or whatever, and then he can negotiate a buyout with the Raptors, then I think there's a plus there for the Raptors. I think the big problem they have right now is there doesn't seem to be any market for Chris Paul.
But, I mean, why not at this point? Like, why not just suit him up if you're not going to do that?
Yeah, I mean, I think he doesn't really fit into their plans, and I don't know. I suspect. I mean, I suspect he doesn't fit into their plans. He probably doesn't have much an interest in playing there in a short run. Like, he's an LA guy, and I think what he's, again, if you believe what you hear, he's working out and keeping himself in shape. And I think he's hoping that a team in a destination that is appealing to him will have some interest in him.
Yeah, we'll see. It looks like, Toronto is now responsible for Chris Paul and got to have a plan, hopefully. So I want to do this really quick before I let you go, Dave. Looking at the free agents that are going to be coming up in 2026, some are unrestricted. Some have club options, some have player options. LeBron is an unrestricted free agent. Trae Young, who we know has been moved to Washington, there's a player option. Harden, who's been moved to Cleveland, he has a player option. CJ McCollum's unrestricted. Chris Middleton, who has, bounced around, he's in Dallas, he's unrestricted. Porzingis, who's now a Golden State Warrior, he's unrestricted. So there are names out here that have been involved in moves, or some of these big names that weren't moved, like a Draymond Green. He has a player option with Golden State after this season. Contavious Caldwell-Pope in Memphis, he has a player option. And Jonathan Kuminga, who we know, got moved to Atlanta, he has a club option. So there's names that were sent to another team before the trade deadline that still have an opportunity to become a free agent this upcoming offseason. And then there's names like LeBron James and Draymond Green who have the opportunity to also be out there. And what's the future going to be for LeBron? And is he a package deal with Bronny wherever he goes? Will he try to use his influence in that respect? And then when it comes to Draymond, we talk about Chris Paul being at the end of the line. Is there a market for Draymond? So I'd love to get your thoughts on the players that were traded that still could end up somewhere else in the offseason, as well as the LeBron and Draymonds of the world. That where do they go from here?
Yeah, I think LeBron, I think it's hard to say. I think it all depends on, I could see him coming back to the Lakers if it fits with, kind of their plan to kind of retool the team around Luka and everything. LeBron, I think, he'll be unrestricted and, he'll pick a shot. It'd be basically, best combination of where he wants to be in a team that, LeBron's not going to a team on a rebuild. And I think at this point in his career, somebody might be able to get him for pennies on the dollar if he wants to continue playing and he can continue to play at a high level.
Yeah.
The Trae Young thing is kind of interesting because, you would think that, when he was traded, Washington has a pretty good idea that they can lock him up longer term. But at the same time, if it doesn't work out in Washington, they get him off get his salary off the books or maybe flip him down the line. But I think like Trae Young and AD and whatnot, it feels like the Wizards are accumulating a bunch of young talent, and they went out and got those guys with the idea that they can kind of jumpstart or accelerate their growth back into relevancy. So I think how can write off the rest of this season probably, but I think how next season goes with Trae Young, I'm guessing he's going to exercise a player option. Or actually, he's player option, right? Trae Young.
Trae is. Yeah. Let me bring it back up. I think he is a player.
Yeah.
Option. Let me see. Yeah, he's player. So he's player. Harden's player. Yeah.
Yeah. So Harden, the Harden trade, that was a win now move by Cleveland. Because I think they've underperformed expectation a little bit this year, and they see Harden as, if they get near peak Harden at this point in his career, that certainly elevates their chances of coming out in the East. I don't think that, could Cleveland re-up him for a year or two? Maybe. I think a lot of it depends on how the Cavs finish and what kind of playoff run they make and where Harden fits into that and whether Harden wants to stay there. Harden's, he's an interesting cat in a lot of ways too. So,
yeah.
I think the Porzingis move was a sneaky good move, I think. And, how his thing plays out, how the rest of the season plays out probably drive the market for him. So, Draymond, I don't see Draymond leaving Golden State. He's got a player option, so he probably will exercise that. I don't see him leaving Golden State of his own because he's probably not worth as much on the open market as what he would get on the player option at this point in his career. Mm-hmm. The Warriors are going to, as long as Curry's playing at a high level, the Warriors the Warriors are not going to go into rebuild mode. It's just not going to happen as long as Curry's there and playing at a high level. So I think as long as they see Draymond as being a key piece of that, he'll be a Warrior. I think if it gets to the point where Draymond's play deteriorates to the point where they don't see him as being a guy who can be central to a contending team, then I think they'll try to flip him and get younger at some point.
Yeah, no, and it's a good point. And as long as he's got a player option, I mean, I would imagine if I'm Draymond, I'm going to stay put. You know, it seems like that is the best bet for him. Very interesting to see like I said, a bunch of the names that we talked about last week and today that were traded before the deadline in the NBA here in the 2025-26 season will be free agents, and a bunch of them unrestricted, or they have player options. Some of them have club options, but just looking at these names, Tyus Jones, who I mentioned today, you know, there's a lot of guys that got moved and could move again. Luke Kennard as well. So we shall see. I want to hit with 2 quick points here, Dave. One being Giannis. Is this all smoke and mirrors? I mean, he's a Buck. Is he always going to be a Buck? He's a champion Buck. I mean, we've heard about it in the past. We've heard about it this season. Oh, he's going to move. Oh, he's talking to this team. Oh, what about this? Oh, what about that? Is this all smoke and mirrors to just get people to watch television and listen to radio shows? Is Giannis always going to be a Buck?
Well, I think there certainly is a certain extent of media hyperbole and everything. And I think especially Milwaukee's kind of a small market franchise. So, I think there's a lot of wish list things going on in places like New York and LA and whatnot, where Giannis would certainly be like a wish list guy, if he were to go to like the Knicks or the Lakers or somebody along those lines. I mean, I think the truth is somewhere in the middle. Like, Giannis has been on the record as saying he wants to remain, and I think he enjoys being in Milwaukee, and I don't see him as being the kind of star player that feels like he's got to be in New York or LA or Boston or a major metropolitan area or anything. He seems comfortable in Milwaukee, but I also think that he wants to feel like they're working towards becoming a championship team again, and I think he's probably at the point in his career where if he doesn't, like, you haven't heard the public outcry, like, he's not been in the media saying demanding a trade or anything like that. So a lot of what you hear from the media, like you said, is hyperbole and speculation. I think if he gets to the point where, and that's why I say I think Milwaukee holding on to him was the right move for the Bucks in the short run. I do think they're going to make a legitimate effort to rebuild a contending team around Giannis before they actually move on from him. But I think if it gets to the point where it's Giannis in a bag of parts and they have no legitimate path to relevancy, then I could definitely see the Bucks and Giannis somewhat amicably, like, looking for a good trade situation where the Bucks bring back assets and go on a full rebuild, and Giannis becomes that part to get somebody over the hump to a championship level.
Yep, they're 2.5 games out from the final spot for the play-in, so it's not like they're dead in the water in the East right now, but we shall see as we step forward. Last note, Mr. Pasiak, who made out the best before the NBA or following this NBA trade deadline of the teams that have been in contention and are not play-in teams, but actually within those top few spots of making the postseason, those top 6 spots, be it the West or the East, or if you want to give me one of each, who actual contender-wise do you feel like made out well?
Well, I mean, it's all speculation because we can answer that question more accurately, once we see how the season plays out.
Yeah. Feet to the fire.
I think off the top of my head, like in the East, I think we talked about it a little bit. I think Cleveland made the win now move with Hart. And so I think, in the short run, if Harden takes a team that people thought would be a contender to come out of the East and it actually brings them back to that level, then you got to say Cleveland. I thought Boston made a sneaky good move with Vucevic, and so I thought that was a pretty good move in the East. In the West, kind of hard to say. I mean, we talked. If you consider the Warriors a contender, I think the Porzingis move and moving on from Kuminga, who seemed to not fit in their plans. I think I think the Porzingis move has the potential, if he pans out and plays at the level that he's shown to be able to from time to time in the past. I think that's a move that in the West that might like move the needle for Golden State.
Yeah, Porzingis was the one that I circled. When I asked the question, that's the one that was top of mind to me. Dave Pasiak here. Moves have been made. Let's hope that they play in their games, and let's hope the Lakers suit up more than 4 or 5 players for upcoming here. Maybe they'll play down one. Who knows? But with that being said, it's kind of like watching an NHL game with somebody trying to kill a power play. But Dave Pasiak here. We appreciate him as always. And Dave, you will be back soon as we discuss this and if and when Chris Paul plays somewhere. And my Raptors, your Sixers are together very close in the East right now. So I'm hoping the best for both, and hopefully we get to stay above that line and stay in the top 6 and move into this postseason together. But it's always a pleasure to talk with you.
Well, the Raptors aren't playing Chris Paul, so when they need to load manage, tell them you got the jersey ready to go. You can go.
All I'm saying is, put me out. I'll play. I'll go out there and give my heart, Dave. I may or may not have just beaten Brandon Trish in a half-court knockout that we're going to be posting this week. So I would say, Raptors, you got a spot. I don't cost $2 million. Let me know. Thank you, Dave, as always.
All right. We'll talk again soon, Dan.
All right, take care.
Goodbye.
Coming from Dave Pasiak here on Wake Up Call with Dan Tortora, where sports truly meets that thing called life, man. And it is. It's hard when it comes to this load management thing because it's frustrating. It's frustrating for the fans and the amount of time and the money that you spend. And listen, it's not all for the fans, right? But to me, there's that aspect of it. There's the team aspect of it. And do I agree with everyone all the time about everything? No, but I thought it was kind of ironic that I've been talking about this last week into this week, and Stephen A. this morning, his show's on, my show's on, and we have the same sentiment, and it's coming off of a night where the Lakers decided to, sit out multiple, Reeves, Luka, LeBron, Marcus Smart. What's the point of even, what is the point of playing that game? You know what I mean? You're not and the thing about the Lakers they're in the top 5 in the West. It's not even like, well, our season's over, and you're playing the Spurs, who are number 2. And in between you and the Spurs is 5 games. It's not like you can't catch up to them. So, I mean, to me, that's just, I don't know. This whole thing is stupidity, and they ended up losing the game by almost 30 points. They lost by 28. But the Spurs are second, you're 5th, and between the two of you, there's 5. They're second in the West, you're 5th in the West, and between you, there's 5 games. Which, to me, if this was the old NBA where you couldn't sit out because you felt like it, they'd be treating this like a playoff game in the season. You go back and look, who the heck even played yesterday for the Lakers? Roy Hachimura, he played 27 minutes. What did he have? He had 6 points. Jake LaRavia played. Jackson Hayes, non-household names. Luke Kennard played in the game after being traded there. He played 28 minutes, had 14 points. Kobe Buffkin played. Maxi Keeber played. Jared Vanderbilt played. Drew Timme played. Shout out to Drew Timme, Gonzaga. Got to interview Drew Timme, big fan. Dalton Connect, covered him when he was in college as well. Audu Thero played 10 minutes. Nick Smith Jr. played 17. Bronny off the bench played 25 minutes, had 12 points, went 5 for 10, 2 for 2 from 3, 3 rebounds, 6 assists, 2 turnovers, 1 block. He had a good stat line. Bronny did yesterday. And then Chris Mannon played. They're more than half of the names that I gave you were names you probably didn't know. Maybe some of the average kind of, paying attention, not paying attention, Laker fan would be like, who are any of these people? And then, Wembanyama played. He had 40 points in 26 minutes. Probably would have banged 60 if they left him out there. 13 to 20, 4 for 6 from 3, 10 for 12 from the charity stripe, 12 rebounds, 2 assists, 4 turnovers, 2 steals, 1 block. Dude's nuts. But they played De'Aaron Fox. They played Wembanyama. They played Kelly Olynyk, Harrison Barnes. I mean, I guess that you don't have to put a lot of guys out there when you're playing, like Dave said, you're playing the G League of the Lakers. These are two teams in contention in the top 5 in the West. And you got guys just chilling on the bench, like acting like this isn't an important game. Like, who's running this team right now? The Lakers are 32-21. The Spurs are 37-16. There's 5 games that separate the Lakers from jumping to second and the Spurs dropping to 5th. They're both in the top 6, which means they're not going to be in the play-in, and they both have an opportunity to be a contender in the West. Why in the hell would 2 of the top 5 teams in the entire Western Conference be playing a game where where 4 Lakers are sitting? And we're talking about guys that have had experience in the championship realm. Why would I go to a Laker game if Luka and LeBron are not playing? I mean, that's just stupid to me. Could you imagine if they're like, hey, we're going to do a Broadway show, and in the first 2 weeks, we're going to have Idina Menzel and Kristen Chenoweth in Wicked. And then they're going to take the next 3 weeks off, and we're going to, they're not going to be here. But you're not going to know that until you sit down for the show and you grab your playbill after you've paid to come to New York City and do all this stuff. I mean, it doesn't make sense in any realm of anything that this is okay. And in the NFL, nobody would go for it. There's 17 games in the NFL. And you can't tell me, well, the NBA plays more games, Dan, so you got to have load. No. Does the NBA bang bodies like they do in the NFL? I was told if you want to simulate an NFL game, put on a helmet, go to the end of your driveway, run as fast as you can, head first into your garage door, back up and do it 300 more times, and that's one game. The NBA is not playing that. The NBA is not doing that. Guys are banging their heads against each other on the offensive and defensive line the whole game. Could you imagine if the offensive line in the NFL had load management days? If Josh Allen had load management days? If Bo Nix had a load management day? If Jalen Hurts had a load management day? Jamar Chase? Jackson Smith and Jigba? Cooper Kupp? If these guys just decided to take Dan, what if and they said, well, you can't, Dan, playoffs and regular seasons, okay, so what if Kenneth Walker took half the regular season off? What if he took every other game off? What if he took off the games where they played a Thursday night game after playing a Sunday game, so it was a short week, and he's like, I'm not playing short weeks. To kind of mirror, the back-to-backs that NBA plays or something like that, having a shortened week, a shortened time span between the two. If Kenneth Walker said, hey, I'll sign a contract, but if we ever have games that are on Thursday nights, Friday nights, or Saturday, I'm not playing them because I need Sunday to Sunday or Sunday to Monday. So he just sits out. Do the Seahawks win the NFC West? Do the Seahawks get the number 1 seed? Do they get to sit out the wild card round? Do they make it all the way if Kenneth Walker took 3 games off during the season? And you can't say, well, 17 and 82 is not relevant because 17 is what they have in the NFL. 82 is what they have in the NBA. The NBA is not hitting it. You can't say, well, the NBA plays more games, so this doesn't make sense, Dan. The NBA doesn't hit as hard. So we're talking about wear and tear of the body and wear and tear of the body. Well, the NFL is getting their bodies hit a hell of a lot more than the NBA is. And they call fouls in the NBA. You bang bodies in the NFL, they're not calling a foul unless you take out the quarterback after he throws the ball. A lot of those guys are getting hit all day long. Nothing. No stoppage. No free shots. So, come on. These soccer players are taking days off when they're running 25 miles a game. These outside mids are taking days off when they're trying to make it in FIFA. They're trying to qualify? I mean, this is stupid to me. And yet, in baseball, there's 162 games, not 82. They're 2 games away from being double the NBA. And the wear and tear on their body isn't the same because they're not contacting each other the same. But again, Shohei Ohtani should be sitting at home rehabbing, and he's hitting at least 50 home runs, stealing at least 50 bases while he's rehabbing his ability to pitch. You think a guy in the NBA would be going through some rehab post-surgery and it's like, no, I'm going to play through the whole thing? That's few and far between, but we're not talking about guys rehabbing. We're talking about guys that are 100% healthy, not playing. So to me, it's apples and oranges because Shohei Ohtani is playing through an injury post-surgery. These guys are not playing when healthy because they don't feel like it. And you can call it whatever you want to call it, load management. But what if you had, okay, now pilots have to have certain time off between flights, right? They have to. And NBA teams have to have time to travel and this, that, and whatever. So let's treat that the same, right? You got to have travel time and pilots have to have that sleep time or they call it rest. So you have to have that, right? But what if a pilot decided, like the best pilots in America, decided that they were all going to rest the first week of February, they're going to rest in March, they're going to do this and do that. So then you have so-so pilots flying your plane. You feel good about that? Could you imagine getting on a plane and saying, hey, Delta's got the top, our top 10 pilots are all on load management today. I'm probably not flying. Who's flying the plane right now? So, I mean, why am I going to go and waste my money and my time and my energy in hopes that... Why would you go to any NBA game when you don't know who the hell's going to play? If a guy's injured, you know he's injured ahead of time to sell your tickets or to not get on that plane. You know ahead of time. You know that Jason Tatum from last year was not going to be here for this season. And so if you had season tickets to the Celtics this year, maybe you sold them. Okay, maybe you got rid of them. Maybe you got rid of some. But you knew he was out. Load management and injuries are not the same because injuries, you're watching a game on a Tuesday night, somebody rolls an ankle, you know they're probably not playing Wednesday or Friday or Saturday. Okay? And depending on the severity of it, they might not play next week or the week after. But load management you can't account for because that guy wakes up in the morning and goes, I got a booger in my nose. I'm not going to play today. I mean, he doesn't have to have any viable reason except for, I don't feel like it. And if the team says, cool, then he doesn't have to play. And that's stupid to me. This whole thing is idiotic to me. And they say it's for the health of the player, but why were players healthy back then when they didn't have any of these resources? They didn't have load management. And why was the NBA investigating the San Antonio Spurs years ago for doing load management, which has now become a normal thing? It's like what once was a sin is now applauded. It's the same thing with NCAA. You couldn't give $5. You couldn't buy a sandwich for somebody that was playing in the NCAA. Like if I'm friends with a football player on the Syracuse football team and we got lunch and I bought him a sandwich because we're friends, I'm considered a booster for that $9 sandwich and Syracuse can pay a penalty because I bought a sandwich for a friend. That's the old rules. Now the rules are you can just throw money everywhere. You don't have to follow anything. You can tamper like crazy. There's no checks and balances. They say there's rules, but I haven't seen anybody get punished for them, really. So what are we talking about? What once was a sin in the NCAA is now normal. What once was a sin in the NBA is now normal. And we wonder why our society is chaotic because we had rules and now we don't. We had plans in place and now we don't. We had systems and now we don't. I mean, come on. We have to anticipate that LeBron's going to sit 20 games a year so that he can be ready for the playoffs. If I'm one of his teammates busting my butt for 82 games, why is he sitting there? That dude's making $35 million. I'm making $2 million and I got to play 82 games? Why can't I sit out? Well, you're not LeBron. Well, I'm also not getting paid that money. And maybe if you didn't pay LeBron that much to sit there and pick his nose, I'd get paid more. If I'm on a team and Steph Curry gets, and think about what that does to a locker room. The superstars get to sit and giggle and lick lollipops and go on Instagram when I got to be out here putting my body on the line every single night. You think guys called up from the G League can take days off? You think guys that were drafted in the second round can take days off? You think guys that are trying to make a name for themselves coming from overseas can take days off? I don't want a player on my team. If I draft Victor Wembanyama and he tells me I'm the number 1 overall pick, I want more money than God, plus I'm going to play like 60 games a year. That's not enticing to me. Well, Danny's super talented. Yeah, okay, he's super talented. He also played in the game last night. You know what he could have said to his coach last night? If half the Lakers aren't playing, why the hell am I playing? I don't need to be out here. This is going to be like an all-star game for me. But he played. Victor Wembanyama, who's been in the league far less than Luka, far less than LeBron, less than Marcus Smart, right? Less than Austin Reeves. He could have just said, if they're not playing, I'm not playing. Okay? I want good against good. And if they're not going to go out there, then I'm not going to waste my time and I'm not going to go out there. But no, he played the game. He played well. He did a lot. And then he got to sit, rightly so, because why keep him out there if you're playing this stupid preseason game? That's the game last night. The San Antonio Spurs, who are second in the West, and the Lakers, who are fifth in the West, played a preseason game yesterday because the Lakers players got to sit out and not play. And that must be nice. It must be nice to make millions of dollars when most people in America will never see $1 million cumulatively in their lifetime. It must be nice to make millions upon millions upon millions upon millions of dollars to get to sit there and giggle. Do you know how many people would love to be in the NBA? Play one game, 1 quarter, 2 minutes? Do you know how many guys who are in the G League or overseas or just working out, trying to hope to get a free agency call or hope to get a 2-way contract? You have thousands of players working for an opportunity, and you got guys in the NBA that have all the opportunity in the world and all the money in the world, and they're just sitting there. Totally healthy. And yeah, this guy might have tweaked this and this guy might have tweaked that, but then Dave said, okay, well, what if you say, if you don't play, we're not going to pay you? Then how do we know who's telling the truth on who's injured or not? I guess we have to have a log. I guess we have to have a report. I don't know. I guess we have to put the strength and conditioning people on a lie detector test. I mean, there used to be this thing in life that was called personal responsibility, accountability, and honesty. There's checks and balances. How about this? If they don't play, you don't pay them. If you lie as an organization about their injury, you get fined by the NBA. Because there's an honor system in life. You're supposed to tell the truth. People call in sick to work all the time. Are they sick? Or did they go drinking last night? Are they sick? Are they hanging out with a girl or a guy right now? Are they sick? Or are they out of the country? Are they sick? Or did they just stay up late and figure, screw you, I'm not coming to work today? Businesses have been dealing with this forever. Is someone actually sick, or did they just take the day off because they felt like it? But there's an honors system. We're not teaching morals and values in America if we continue to pander to people and promote them and pay them and glorify them the less that they do. The best players in NBA history that came before all of this load management BS, I don't remember Charles Barkley, Hakeem Olajuwon, David Robinson, Gary Payton, Sean Kemp, Hersey Hawkins, Rick Smith, Reggie Miller, Mark Jackson, Patrick Ewing, Charles Oakley, Michael Jordan, Scottie Pippen, Dennis Rodman, Luke Longley, Tony Kukoc, Clyde Drexler, Karl Malone, John Stockton. I don't remember any of those guys going, can I take a day off because I just want to sit and watch? I don't remember those days. And I can't imagine the locker room would have been nice for those guys that decided to just not play. And then the team loses and you come in the locker room, team lost by 2, and everybody in the locker room is staring at you because you decided to sit out because you felt like it. And if you're making more than 90% of that locker room, it's going to be even worse that you sat out. But now it's considered normal. How did something about the Spurs getting investigated for whether or not their players were actually injured when they sat, how do we go from that to now it's a normal thing that has a normal term in load management, and we now have these rules in place of, well, you got to play this many games to get in the All-Star game, you got to play this many games to be eligible for an award. So now you've dumbed it down that, and you say, well, Dan, what about injuries? Injuries are different, okay? If I sprain my ankle and I'm out 3 games, I want to play, but I can't because I sprained my ankle. We're not talking about a guy who's healthy, 2 good ankles that can go out there and chooses not to. But this is what America has become by and large. We want to get money, not work. We want to show up half the time, get paid double. It doesn't make sense. And I'm not going to sit here and stay quiet about it because it's weak. It dilutes the product. It's a waste of time. It's a disrespect to the fan. It's a disrespect to your teammates. And you got 2 teams last night that are in playoff contention, that are 5 games apart. What type of idiot knows you come into the game a few games behind the Spurs and now you're okay being 1 more game behind the Spurs? Teams used to go into an NBA season, play 82 games, hope to God that they win the majority of them, hope that they get a good seed, hope that they get in, that they can play well in the series, and they can move forward. There was no play-in games in the NBA. The NBA has 30 franchises, 15 in the East, 15 in the West. Because of the play-in system now of seed 7, 8, 9, or pardon me, of seed 7, 8, 9, and 10. When you look at the seeds now, when you look at the NBA, 7, 8, 9, and 10, those 4 seeds, they now take, because of the play-in games, the East and the West take 10 out of 15 teams on both sides. So there's only 5 teams that don't qualify for the playoffs on both sides. That means out of 30 NBA franchises, 20 teams qualify for the playoffs. So you dilute the product that way. You dumb down the product that way. You got a bunch of teams with losing records that are going to make the postseason. More than in the past. So you're going to take 10 of 15, 20 of 30 overall. They don't have to play in certain... They can sit out games. They can load manage. And then I'm supposed to sit here and go, well, because LeBron and I are the same age, I'm supposed to understand that he sits out these games. Okay? Well, in the NBA right now, there's no way in hell or heaven or anything in between that I'd be sitting out games. If the Raptors called me up and said, let's go, Dan, we heard you can shoot, go out here and play 20. I'm not going to go, can I play 15, please? I'm going to play 20 dang games. I'm going to play till my body says I can't. I'm going to play till I pass out. I'm going to play till I can't move. We used to play for the love of the game. You used to aspire to be somebody. You used to grow up as a kid, play on the court that your parents made you next in the driveway. Then you'd hope to get on a team, and you'd hope to be playing in elementary school and play CYO and play JV and play varsity and get to college and play in college and hope you get D1. And if you don't get D1, hope you get D2 or D3 or JUCO or whatever. Then you hope you did enough. Then you got all your film together. You hope you had people in your corner to share your film. You shared your film. You made your phone calls. You let everybody know. You hope you get to an NBA workout. You hope you get to go in summer league. You hope you get to some type of rookie camp or whatever it may be to showcase yourself for an hour, a minute, a day, whatever, in the hopes that you could make an NBA team. And if you don't make an NBA team, that you can make a G League team so you're one step out. Or you can make a team overseas but still have somebody in the NBA watching you. Have a good enough agent that's going to share your film from Germany or Sweden or Switzerland or Italy or Spain or wherever. And you go all that way, your whole life, to aspire to be the guy that sits in sweatpants when he's 100% healthy. Don't sell that crap to me. I'm not buying it. Okay? Well, we need to make sure he's healthy for the playoffs. How do you know you're even going to make the playoffs if he takes 20 games off? Do you know how stupid you look to your fans when you are a few games behind the team you played and you're willing to be one game farther behind them now? What if the Lakers fall off the cliff and they fall out of 5, out of 6, and now they're in the play-in 7 through 10? And you look back at the games where LeBron could have played, and Luka could have played, and Reeves could have played, and Smart could have played, and Hachimura could have played, and so on and so forth. But you look back and you go, man, if we had those 5 games, we would have been in the top 6, and we wouldn't have been doing this BS play-in stuff, hoping to God we just make it. People argue about things, and it's, well, about the health of the body. It's about the health of the body, Dan. Got to take care of the health of the body, Dan. Well, again, did Barkley have the same resources the guys have now? Did Hakeem have the same resources? Tell me. Did Reggie Miller have the same resources? You think Reggie Miller would have sat out a game? You think Reggie Miller would have passed up an opportunity? You think Gary Payton would have taken a day off? You think Michael Jordan would have been like, nah, I'm good. I'm going to just chill. And I disagree with that. I think Michael Jordan would have played with the flu, be it regular season or postseason. They might have told him not to, but I don't know if Jordan would want to give that up. I think if Jordan was sitting out a game and somebody walked by him in the hallway 5 minutes before the game and said, you can't play with the flu, you trash, he would have been like, put me in, Phil. Just because somebody said he couldn't. You think Kobe Bryant would have just chilled and relaxed? You think if Kobe was on the team right now, he would have been putting up with Luka and LeBron sitting while he's playing? I mean, let's be real with each other. Would the NBA of the 70s, 80s, 90s, how would they view the 21st century NBA? How would the guys playing in 2003 look at the 2026 load management? You really honestly think that Bill Russell would be like, yeah, that's cool, I like it, blah. You know, like, really? I mean, it's disrespectful to come that far. And it's like, well, Dan, you got to understand, instead of retiring, a guy like LeBron, 40 years old, he can either retire or he can load management so he doesn't have to retire. Well, I don't want him to have to retire either. But I also think it's a disservice to the Lakers for him to sit there. Well, that's the only way he can play. Then why did other guys do it? How did other guys do it with no nutritionists, with no mental health, with no strength and conditioning staff? Or if they had a staff, it was a staff of 1, not a staff of 5 or 7 or whatever it can be now. All we've done with college and professional coaching staffs and auxiliary staffs is we've extended them. We've added to them. We've spent more money. So if you continue to have more and more and more and more resources, why can't you figure out how to play? How are you going to argue with me that less resources equals playing a whole season and more resources equals babying each other? And we're sitting here now saying you have to have load management, Dan. It has to be this way. Then why wasn't it this way 30 years ago? We had to figure it out. I had to figure a lot of things out that are at the fingertips of kids right now. If I didn't know the information for something, I had to talk to someone that did, talk to someone that lived it, or go to the library. Now, I can go on Google, and whether it's lying to me or telling me the truth, whether the algorithm is leading me in a direction of conspiracy or fact, it's there. I can ask Alexa, Siri, Google, anybody, anything I want to ask them at any time. I can ask them about anything. So you're telling me that a world that has more resources, it has to work less? A world that has more resources and more money has to work less, do less, be less responsible, and less of a teammate. How does that make sense? How does that equation add up? And again, do cops get to take days off because they feel like it? And what cop do you know is making NBA, NFL, or MLB money? What beat cop getting shot at 5 times a week is making that money? I'll wait. What ENT showing up at a crash site is making LeBron money, Steph money, Draymond Green money? What firefighter trying to preserve an apartment complex is taking a day off? Could you imagine if, like, there was a town that had 20 firefighters, small town, and the best 4 they had took a day off, 16 go to work, and there's a massive fire in the town unlike anything they've ever seen, and those 4 people go, well, that sucks. Hope you 16 can figure it out because we're at home eating ho-hos. What are we doing? Or even worse, to parallel it to the NBA, they're watching the firefighters fight the blaze while sitting on the truck, not doing anything. Not picking up the hose, not getting the fire hydrant ready, not making a phone call, just watching, going, man, I hope that they can put that fire out. Just like Luka and LeBron and Reeves and Smart are going, man, I hope all these G League guys can figure this game out against Victor Wembanyama. The last time I checked, if you get paid to work, you probably should go to work. Could you imagine if Walmart showed up the day before Thanksgiving and there was 50 workers that were supposed to be cashiers and 10 of them just shut their light off and stared at you? I mean, the parallels of other pieces, it doesn't make sense in any walk of life to get paid to come to work. You think Walmart would pay workers that came and did nothing? That showed up for a 10-hour shift and just sat there and played on their phone and ate Subway? You think they would pay those people? They shouldn't. If they do, they're idiots. And I'm not singling out Walmart. I'm just making an example here. I'm actually promoting Walmart, saying don't waste your money on employees that don't work. That's not the same about being out on maternity or paternity leave. It's not the same as being out because somebody died in the family. It's not the same being out because you got injured. It's you are 100% healthy and you came to work and you chose to sit there. Why am I going to pay you? Why would I pay anybody? If I hired somebody to work for me and they told me, hey, Dan, every other Thursday and Saturday, I'm not going to edit. I'm going to show up, but I'm not going to edit. I'm not going to make phone calls. I'm not going to send emails, and I'm not going to do your social media, but I want to get paid the same. I would say every other Thursday and Saturday, you're going to take $0. On those weeks, you can show, I'd be like, why are you going to show up and stare at me? Stay home. I don't want to see your face if you're going to sit here and do nothing. This is idiocy. And when you put in that these guys make millions of dollars, it sounds even more ridiculous. And so we're sitting LeBron and Luka so that they can win an NBA title. So we're entitling them to win a title. We're babying them and then asking them to give their all. And I'm sorry, but to the psyche of a player, if I know that I don't have to play as many games as everybody else and I'm going to make twice the amount of money or 3 times the amount of money, and then I'm just going to have to turn it on for the postseason, that's not attractive to me. And I'm sorry, if I'm a head coach and I got 4 guys in my locker room that can BS the season when everybody else has to play hard, I don't know how I team build through that. I don't know if I have a constructive locker room in that. I don't know if I build a family in that. So basically, the more talented you are in the NBA, the less you have to care, the less you have to work, and the more you get to be paid. Makes sense. I'm being sarcastic. That makes no sense. And I'm not singling anybody out. I talked about LeBron last week because I was asked about LeBron last week. But I'm not here to single anybody out. I'm here to talk about what's fair and what makes sense and what's ridiculous. And just because you peddle it, just because you're trying to sell me something doesn't mean I have to buy it. And I'll tell you what, I'm not watching those games when they sit. Could you imagine if Syracuse basketball right now was like, they didn't say anything, and then you got to the game, and you paid all your money in this, that, and the third, and they told you, just so you know, Cayenne's not going to play, but he's healthy. William Kyle's not going to play, but he's healthy. Nate Kings isn't going to play, but he's healthy. Nate George isn't going to play, but he's healthy. Let's have a great game. And you be sitting here, and some people will be like, well, what's the point of playing, Dan? They're not going anywhere. They're 13 and 11. They don't have a good record. Well, if they win out, they could get to 20 wins or close. They change their seeding in the ACC tournament. If they lose, if they don't play players and they lose, they could play their way out of the ACC tournament, not even make it, end their season early. So yeah, they don't have a good record. But the way Syracuse plays these next couple weeks is the difference between making the ACC tournament or not making the ACC tournament, playing on the first day, not playing on the first day, having a bye, seeding, matchup, and a potential opportunity to make a run. So even the teams that aren't good still have a reason to not do load management. There's no logical argument other than people saying, well, we don't want these guys to get hurt. Well, I don't want them to get hurt either. But isn't that the risk you take by playing any sport, anywhere, at any time? Whether it's 5-year-olds or elementary or JV or varsity or prep school or college or pro, are you not taking that risk at any time? When people go to the Olympics, are they not risking injury? I mean, you could wake up in the morning, walk down the stairs, and be thinking about what cereal you're going to have, slip on the last step, and roll your ankle. Are you not risking getting out of bed every single day that you could get hurt? Are you not risking every single day that you get behind the car that you could get in an accident? Are you not risking every single day that you could walk into a building and somebody could decide to come into that building with a gun and you may or may not get shot? I mean, we're risking our health, safety, and wellness every day by simply getting out of bed, walking around, leaving the house. But unlike these NBA players, you're not getting paid $30 million to risk your life and risk your health and risk your wellness. You're not getting paid $20 million. You're not getting paid $5 million. Right? You're getting up in the morning, getting ready for work, getting in the car and commuting and going to the office, risking your health and wellness for $20,000, $50,000, $10,000, $12 an hour, $15 an hour. So if you can risk it to go to the restaurant and say, would you like fries with that? I think that they can risk it for the $30 million. I'm just saying. All right, let's take a break. I've said enough. I've said my piece. And sometimes subjects are so ridiculous that I just feel like they shouldn't even exist to talk about. With that being said, we'll take a step aside here on Wake Up Call with Dan Tortora. We'll be back to wrap up the show right after this inside the Great Lakes Honda City studio. Stay with us.
For Great Lakes Honda City, 7140 Henry Clay Boulevard in Liverpool, New York. Great cars, great people, Great Lakes. In these unique times, there are those in our community that give us a sense of normalcy and positivity. Pizza Man on 50 Oswego Street in Baldwinsville has been here for you for over 35 years and is here now. Call 315 638-1234 or order online at pizzamanbville.com to bring those familiar tastes into your home. And remember to come see our monthly on-site broadcasts centered around the community and our Baldwinsville Bees. Pizza Man in Baldwinsville. Any way you slice it, they are always here for you. Looking for your next ride? Look no further than Great Lakes Honda City, located on 7140 Henry Clay Boulevard in Liverpool, New York. Serving our community for decades, their new and pre-owned vast array of vehicles are available to you Monday through Saturday on site. To search from home, shop at GreatLakesHondaCity.com. Call 315-365-5576 to set up an appointment. That's 315-365-5576 for Great Lakes Honda City, 7140 Henry Clay Boulevard in Liverpool, New York. Great cars, great people, Great Lakes. Here's a message from Renee from Bryan's Landing, located on 6523 East Seneca Turnpike in Jamesville, New York. Open Tuesdays and Wednesdays for dinner, Thursday through Saturday for lunch and dinner, and Sundays for brunch.
It's a lot like the way that my mom and dad ran their restaurant. We have put in place a lot of people that are family to us, very similar to how my dad hired people that were family to him. And then the tradition I'm carrying on is a lot of the items that are on our menu are my dad's. And he taught our chefs how to recreate his dishes. So I think that Tommy McInerney, who our executive chef is, to him it is an art. And I think that when he does create a dish, it's not just about making the food taste delicious, what is definitely our priority, but it's an art to him, and it's almost like his canvas on a plate where he just wants the colors to look great, and people love it because he takes pride in that. And Brian and I appreciate that. We want it to obviously look good and taste good. I will tell you, when we opened up, it was 6 weeks before COVID. And what was amazing was the community, our friends and family stepped up, and everybody did takeout. Everybody supported us. Our hearts were just so filled. So to Brian and I, obviously our friends come all the time, and we just have repeat customers in Jamesville, and I think people going to our previous restaurant in Green Lakes are making the trip to come to Bryan's Landing to support us. And I mean, I think we have great food and a great atmosphere. So it's very, very important to us.
Head to Bryan's Landing, located on 6523 East Seneca Turnpike in Jamesville, New York, where memories have become recipes that are now meals to share with you. Tuesdays and Wednesdays for dinner, Thursday through Saturday for lunch and dinner, and on Sundays for brunch. And be sure to come out for live music Friday, Saturday, and Sunday. Life gets busy, and sometimes that means us running around. So Canine Camp Dog Daycare offers you an opportunity to give your dog a place to stay while you take care of what you need to throughout the day. Canine Camp Dog Daycare is located on 228 Old Bridge Street in East Syracuse, New York. You can see it from the highway, and it's just off of Erie Boulevard across from BJ's Wholesale Club. Call 315-437-7110. That's 315-437-7110 to schedule an appointment to bring your dog in and tour the facility. Appointments are Monday through Thursday after 6:30, where you and your dog can see everything that Canine Camp Dog Daycare has to offer, including a self-serve dog wash and a retail store filled with all of your dog's wants and needs, including food, treats, harnesses, leashes, and more, making Canine Camp Dog Daycare your one-stop shop for your furry-loving friend. Right, Lily?
Carvel DeWitt, it's what happy tastes like. Do you know why? Because we make ice cream. Creamy, rich, flavorful ice cream. Not yogurt or iced milk like some of our competitors. Ice cream. Fresh, by hand, daily. For the calorie conscious, we have something new for you. Our new Carvelite. Same great flavor, creaminess, and texture of our regular ice cream with only 35 calories an ounce. So whether you want an ice cream cake, flying saucer, dasher, carvalanche, hard or soft ice cream, we will satisfy your craving with our fresh, handmade regular or new Carvelite ice cream. Carvel DeWitt. It's what happy tastes like.
The Wildcat Sports Pub in Camillus, New York is located on 3680 Milton Avenue in the Home Depot Plaza. It is your family-friendly sports bar and restaurant. Folks, some sports bars aren't family-friendly. Some family-friendly restaurants are not sports bars. The Wildcat Sports Pub in Camillus, New York is proud to be both. It is that marriage that you've been looking for years. The Wildcat Sports Pub is your home base for your sports bar and restaurant needs, games for the kids, indoor and outdoor activities, and enough things on the menu to come back every single week and get to try something new. They're open Sundays from noon to 8 p.m., Monday through Wednesday, 11 a.m. to 11 p.m., and Thursday through Saturday from 11 a.m. to midnight. For reservations and party information, call 315-487-2222 for the Wildcat family-friendly sports pub and restaurant.
GG Cards and Breaks. Like, comment, subscribe.
GG Cards and Breaks coming to you on 639 Delmar Place in Syracuse, New York is your one-stop sports card and trading card shop. Speaking of all these players and teams, well, you can go out and see them. They might be waiting for you in the display cases or waiting for you in those packs and boxes. You never know what you're going to find at GG Cards and Breaks, but I can tell you I found some of the best cards and arguably had the best box breaks and pack breaks I've ever had in my life of the great cards that I've gotten out of it to buy, sell, and trade at their trade nights as well. So make sure you head out there Tuesday through Saturday, 10 to 6, Sundays 10 to 5. And outside of the sports world, they also have trading card games like Disney Lorcana, Magic the Gathering, Yu-Gi-Oh!, Pokemon, One Piece. So find your way over to GG Cards and Breaks, 639 Delmar Place in Syracuse, New York. Simply put, a place to be a big kid every week. Big time shout out to Chick-fil-A in DeWitt, corner of Bridge Street and Erie Boulevard. Megan Sorber and her team are waiting to see you. So many of you have gone there already, and I look forward to you going there today. Guess what? It's lunchtime, and that means you need to figure out one thing. Do I want original, spicy, or grilled? Because Chick-fil-A is waiting to see you in the drive-thru, inside, and on the app. Chick-fil-A on the corner of Bridge Street and Erie Boulevard. You already know it tastes good. What are you waiting for? With that being said, here on Wake Up Call with Dan Tortora, big time thank you for being with us in the Great Lakes Honda City studios, up and down the East Coast, the Midwest, the West Coast, and all around the globe. YouTube.com, Facebook.com, both /WakeUpCallDT, and on WakeUpCallDT.podbean.com. Once we go live, we jump into the archives on Amazon Music, Audible, iHeartRadio, iTunes, and Apple Podcasts, Player FM, Podbean, Podchaser.com, Podvine, Spotify, TuneIn, YouTube, and more. All you have to do is search Wake Up Call with Dan Tortora, or one word, Wake Up Call DT. Subscribe and follow when you do it. Download it and keep us right there with you on any device. And a big time thanks to our Central and Upstate New York partners, Great Lakes Honda City, Carvel DeWitt, the Wildcat Sports Pub, GG Cards and Breaks, Myers Creek, Bryan's Landing, K9 Camp Dog Daycare, Avocoles, K9 Campground Dog Boarding, Ma and Pa's, the snack capital of the world, Chick-fil-A Cicero, Mother's Cupboard, Pizza Man, Game Point Sports Complex, Chick-fil-A in DeWitt. And I want to remind y'all that this is the last Wednesday that you will not have a Sunday that is brought to you by Wake Up Call. Because this Friday, February 13th, marks the unveiling of our newest Sunday. New name, new flavors, new combo, new reason why I did it. You will find my new Sunday this Friday being unveiled at Carvel on 4322 East Genesee Street, exclusively at Carvel DeWitt. So make sure you head out there this Friday, February 13th. And after this week, you will never have a week where we don't have our buy one, get one Sundays on Wednesdays. So my Sunday will be available 7 days a week, and it will be included in the Carvel buy one, get one special that's every Wednesday. Can't wait to show you, tell you what it is, and I'm very much looking forward to it, so stay tuned. Big time shout out to Onondaga Community College. We have brought you just about 6 months of a special partnership of making sure that there was a spotlight on OCC that you've never had before. And in the last 12 plus years, I've worked to give you that spotlight. Unprecedented coverage of over a decade of the Onondaga Community College Lasers, their student athletes, their coaches, their administration. And I cannot thank Rob Edson enough for his vision and his mission. And I would have loved for him to be here so we could do this together. But I love him up in heaven. I know he's with us. I know he's with his family and his friends. I know he's with OCC. And I know that he'll guide me with God to the next thing. You can find OCC by going to youtube.com/wakeupcalldt. Click subscribe, hit the notification bell. Find our OCC playlist. For more information, go to onondagalazers.com. The Binghamton University Bearcats, let me say it again. The Binghamton University Bearcats are exclusive multimedia marketing partners with Wake Up Call with Dan Tortora. Check out the Bearcats during Bearcat Time every Tuesday at 10 a.m. Eastern Time. Student athletes, coaches, administration, and alumni rocking with me right here on Wake Up Call. You can find all of our videos by going to youtube.com/wakeupcalldt. Click subscribe, hit the notification bell. Find the Binghamton playlist. You can also go to wakeupcalldt.com. Look for the big B on our homepage as well as underneath the exclusive partners tab. For more information on the Bearcats, go to binghamtonbearcats.com. With that being said, here on the show, I want to thank my awesome guest that we got to feature today, Michael Strickland, giving us a background behind the scenes, behind the curtain view of the ACC creation of the football schedule for 2026, as he is the Senior Vice President for football of the Atlantic Coast Conference. So big time thanks and shout out to Michael Strickland for being so open with the information and his time. Thanks to Amy Yacola for helping to set it up. And always a thanks to the ACC team that starts with Commissioner Jim Phillips. Big time shout out to my guy Dan Villari for NeapoliDANS. Episode 7, The League is Listening, talking about the fact that he's spoken with all 32 NFL franchises and that multi-layered conversation that started with Dan telling us that he got to make his own sports card for the first time ever and ended with him talking about interactions with specific teams. Don't miss that, as that will re-air. Our NeapoliDANS episodes are all available on youtube.com/wakeupcalldt. Click subscribe, hit the notification bell, and find our NeapoliDANS playlist. Love Dan Villari. He's a little brother to me. Excited to see him in the NFL in just a couple months. And big time shout out to one of my favorite human beings on the planet when it comes to everything that we get to do here with Wake Up Call, Dave Pasiak and NBA Talk on the trade deadline and players sitting out. So with that being said, from the Great Lakes Honda City Studios, I say to you, I appreciate you. I thank you. I send y'all my love. Facebook at Wake Up Call DT, X at Call DT, Instagram at Wake Up Call _DT. I'll see you at the Dome tonight when Chris Bell returns to see if he can ring the bell on the Dome when the Cal Golden Bears play the Syracuse Orange in the Dome at 7 p.m. tonight. Chris Bell returns for the first time ever to Syracuse after leaving Syracuse via the portal for Cal. Fans, be kind, be considerate, and don't be booing this man. But Chris Bell will be back in the Dome in just a few hours. We'll see you there. In the meantime, and as always, God bless, no stress, do your best, be good to each other, be good to yourself, and remember above all things, God loves you, and he is never late.